All right, what is going on out there, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Hook It podcast. Boy, oh boy, do we have an episode for you today. If you're a new listener to the show, then welcome to the family. And if you've been around for a while, then a massive thank you once again for your continued support. Like I just mentioned, this episode is one of my all-time favorite conversations. It was so much fun and super enlightening. Matt Macduff once again stepped up to the plate and dropped bombs. The premise of this podcast series, if you haven't heard it before, is to discuss books that have had a positive impact on our lives. We kind of use these books as a framework of conversation to share with you our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Of course, we want you to come along on the journey with us too, by reading these books and sharing with us your findings. The next book we will be reading is mentioned at the end of this podcast and was recommended by none other than Cam Zink. So, on this episode, Matt Macduff and I broke down and discussed Steven Pressfield's War of Art. Personally, this could be one of my favourite books of all time, and I read it every time I need that little kick up the ass to start or complete a project. Usually every 2 or 3 months, if I'm honest with you. It seems to open up all of my creative channels and helps break down something that Steven Pressfield calls resistance. Resistance comes up in all facets of life, right? So from fear of the unknown, needing a push to step outside your comfort zone, or even to help you realize your true potential. And in this episode, we get into all of that. And honestly, I cannot get over how much I enjoyed this conversation. Towards the end of this episode, we also got talking about Matt's latest Title MTB edit that just dropped. It was crazy interesting to hear the backstory of this project and some of the reasons why it's so important to Matt. So make sure you listen to the end of this episode, watch the edit again if you've not, well, if you have already seen it, and if you've not already seen it, there is a link in the show description to watch the edit too. And please, throw some props over to Matt for being a legit badass on and off the bike. All right, before we drop in on this episode, I have some exclusive offers for you just in time for Christmas. You know, the gift that keeps on giving, that is the Hook It podcast. CBD. It's kind of the it thing right now, right? In the health and wellness space, and for good reason too. I've personally had some really, really good results from using natural leaf CBD. If you've listened to any of these episodes of the podcast, you'll know I am no scientist, like far from a scientist. And I'm sure you've seen and heard all the positive research and stories about CBD products, but you've got to be careful where you get it from. Do not trust these CBD cowboys that are just trying to make a quick buck. Natural Leaf CBD is a family-run business based in Cheshire here in the UK, and they're in the market for the right reasons. Unlike all the petrol stations, vape shops, animal sanctuaries, you name it, they think they're CBD experts. All Natural Leaf products are full spectrum, which means you get the full cannabinoids and not just the CBD pulled out of the crops. They are organic and vegan friendly, so you aren't going to be ingesting any pesticides or nasty fertilizers. They use a CO2 extraction system to ensure you get a clean product with a guaranteed strength. Sustainability is also a big part of this business too, so all their bottles, tins and packaging is 100% recyclable. If you want to help support the podcast and more importantly help support a legit company in these COVIDial times, then give Natural Leaf CBD a try. They have just set up an exclusive discount code for our podcast listeners to give you 20%. That's right, 20% off everything on the store. All you have to do is enter the promo code HKT20, and that will give you 20% off anything on the store. It's naturalleafcbd.co.uk. HKT20, 20% off. We are also brought to you by the legends at Worx and their Hydroshot portable pressure washer. The Worx Hydroshot is unlike any other pressure washer on the market and is the perfect tool for all you mountain bikers moto heads and clean freaks. There is nothing worse than getting home from a day shredding and having to start the big cleanup. And if you're like me and you keep your bike in the house, then it's important for the strength and health of your relationship to make sure your bike is clean as possible when you bring it indoors. So why not wash your bike at the track or at the end of a trail? It's super easy with the Worx Hydroshot as it's powered by a PowerShare battery. It draws fresh water from any source, no matter how remote you are. All you got to do is dip the hose into some water. It could be a stream, a river, a puddle. You could be super posh if you really want and attach a bottle of mineral water to it. Voila, you can wash your bike or said toy right there, right then. They also make the perfect gift for Christmas, right? So if you want to get your hands on one of these Worx Hydroshots, they are available from select retailers only, which include Amazon, Argos, Halfords, Toolstation and their official eBay store, or check out their new UK website, worx-uk.com. But guys, pull your finger out. Christmas is nearly here. Shipping is slow as hell right now. Royal Mail, they've got trucks backed up. They don't know what's going on. Things are taking forever. So if you want one of these, jump on it right now in time for Christmas. Get that special person something to clean his special things with. Boom. And last but not least, we are brought to you by the Clean Freaks, the pink fluid angels, and the brand you turn to when you want to get your pride and joy sparkling, fresh, and lubed. mucoff.com. What more can you say about Muc Off? They are the market leaders in cleaning and lubrication technology, and they support the best athletes in the business. Do you think Ben Deacon could continue up with this oi bravado if his bike was filthy? No. Imagine the content the drop and roll squad would be putting out if the brakes weren't working. Exactly. And now we're heading into the dark grasp of winter here in the UK. Make sure you are stocked up on winter essentials such as wet chain lube, the iconic nanotech cleaner. They have all the brushes for getting into those nitty gritty areas. And I also just noticed they have a Christmas gift idea section up on the website. Christmas is apparently the time to give. So go on. Treat yourself or somebody else and give them something they actually want. People are sick of socks, terrible gifts. Give them something that they can use and clean things with. Keep your eyes peeled too on our Instagram page, because after the success of our last Muc Off giveaway, we're going to be doing another even bigger one in the coming weeks just before Christmas. And that's it, folks. And that is that. I am super excited to drop in on this episode. Again, thank you for stopping by and checking out this episode. If you do enjoy it at the end, don't forget to leave a review or share it with your friends, and enjoy.
Riders ready? Watch the game.
I got big boy pants on! Did we just become best friends?
The Hook It Podcast.
Oh, man. Great to see you again, man. Great to see you. Like we were just saying, dude, I look forward to doing these. Like I really do look forward to sitting and chatting with you. It's a welcome break to the everyday lockdown life that we have going on over here in the UK. So I'm hyped, man. Yeah, looking forward to this, talking about this book and stuff too.
It's so terrible, like just getting worse and worse, really. Like here in Toronto, we're fully locked down, and then I guess in your hood, nothing's changed.
Nah, we've been the same since February, I think, pretty much. February, March, or whenever we went into a full lockdown. So nothing's really changing, man. And I think that's the hardest part of this, is that you'd have no light at the end of the tunnel yet. You know, the vibe here at the moment for Christmas is that they're opening the country up for 5 days. So you can go and visit people. You can see, man, we were just talking about it before, it's stupid, but like you can visit 3 households, or you can see people from 3 households only. And then we're back in a lockdown pretty much straight after that on the 28th of December. But I think the general vibe here as well is that, okay, they're going to open the country up. We're going to be able to go do stuff, but then it's probably going to be worse after that. So then we're probably going to go back into another like national full lockdown in January. And then that's the hardest thing, right? There's just like no life, no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just carrying on. And on a personal level, it just goes, you know, sometimes it's easy, you know, you sort of like enjoying the sort of, if there's not really any plans, life's quite same old shit every day at the moment. You know, I'm working at home, have been doing that since March. don't really travel anywhere because you're not allowed. So there's sort of positives in that. There's plenty of time if you want to work on yourself, which is obviously why we've started doing this series in a roundabout way. So there's opportunity in it, but there's also a lot of negatives to that as well. I think apparently suicide rate's crazy in the UK right now. People are struggling, man. People are losing jobs. People are on the back fence a little bit. So it's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah, it is. It is quite scary, but it's quite cool at the same time. I mean, we get to sit down and do stuff like this, and I think it's great that we're promoting these books because maybe it gives people a little bit more tools to deal with the situations a little better, because it's crazy. Like where's your income coming from? Some people completely lost it, and
from what I understand, it's kind of different around the world too. So here the government have been quite supportive of a lot of businesses. They have stepped in. There's been this furlough scheme where basically if you can't work or if you can't go to work or whatever, the government pays like 80% of your salary, which is great.
Wow.
But there's also a lot of issues with so for me, like I'm self-employed and I don't fall into the bracket of being able to get any support. So thankfully, like a lot of people who work in the bike industry has been really good. The outdoor and action sports industry has been really good. But if I was in another sort of career, like, I don't know, let's say I was a plumber, for example, and I'd only just started my business, you then weren't allowed to go into people's homes unless it was a real emergency. People are cancelling stuff like that left, right, and centre. Like I'd be fucked, man. Like I've got a mortgage to pay and I wouldn't be able to earn anything. So I'm blessed to work in the bike industry at the moment, but very mindful too that people are finding it hard, man. Like people are finding it difficult. And I don't know about you, like, especially with the podcast opening up and talking a little bit more about mental health and having guests on that talk about it a little bit more. It's been kind of overwhelming how many people reach out and say that they are struggling. It's been, I'd never really expected it. I think after, especially doing that lockdown companion series with Ollie, when we were just talking utter shit and just trying to keep people like hyped and keep people, I guess moving forward and, giving them a little bit of entertainment every week. So many messages about gnarly things, like gnarly subjects, mental health, depression, anxiety. So it's been a real eye opener, man, to be honest. And it's definitely made me a little bit more grounded and a bit more sort of mindful of what I do for a living and how blessed I am to be in this industry right now. So, yeah.
Same, man. Same, dude. Feel super blessed, and it's awesome to talk about this stuff and bring up, those mental things like mental health, and talk about it, and then talk about tools, how we deal with it, in our own life and stay strong. Of course, we struggle. Like sometimes I struggle too, and it's quite difficult. But I find that the practices in these books really help, man. And they just, you get these habits and routines down, and as long as you stick to the script, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely helps, man. Definitely helps. I don't think, meditating and stuff might not be able to help you pay your mortgage or like, I don't know, pay your bills and stuff, but it's probably going to give you a perspective change, right? It's just going to give you like you said, it's the tools. Like it's going to give you that awareness. It's going to make you maybe look at things just totally different. So hopefully promoting this stuff is helping people. I really hope so.
Hell yeah. So how have how the last couple months been? Have you been keeping with any of the mind hacking stuff? Have any of the stuff from breath and or mind hacking kind of stayed into your life?
Good question. To be honest, they really have. So as part of this, I put out this Winter Defines handbook, right? And some of the challenges in there were related to like breath and mindfulness and meditation. So last month I did a 30-day cold water challenge. So basically made sure that I had at least a minimum one cold bath or shower every day. And it's been good though, dude. Did you see the wheelie bin thing that I made? So basically,
tell us more about that.
So basically, I took a wheelie bin, as we call it here, trash can, as you guys call it. Cleaned it out, got it nice and clean inside, filled it full of water, and just left it outside in the garden. Obviously, it's got a lid on it, so no dirt and stuff were getting in there. Every time I got in it, I made sure I was pretty clean. Just use that every day, man. Like every morning, I was going out for a walk in the morning with the dog, coming back and then jumping in the, as I call it, cold plunge. But basically, it's just a wheelie bin full of cold water. Sorry. But dude, amazing way to start the day. You know, I was trying to always make sure I do some Wim Hof breathing within being in the wheelie bin. So that's definitely stuck with me. And I think the cold, you know, even before we talked about breath, is something that I need. Like I need that. As soon as I feel anxiety coming on or any sort of mental chatter, that is my first thing. Like that's the go-to. It's like, right, get cold. Just be in the cold. And if it doesn't cure it first, like do it again the next day and the next day. And it really helps. I just think it's that like, you can't think about anything else when all you're doing is thinking about breathing.
Yeah, well, it's a shock, right? And it changes your physical state of your body, and your brain is in your body, and your emotions are sometimes linked to your physical state, or maybe always. I don't know. You'd have to ask an expert, but I definitely in the books that I've read, that's a common thing. Laird Hamilton in his book Force of Nature talks about when he feels depressed or any sort of anxiety or anything, when his brain isn't working for him, he immediately goes to like physical exercise just to change his state of his body. Yeah. And that's what the cold does, man. It completely changes the state of your body. And it's funny, like reading the stuff about habits. I find that the breath work and the cold really is almost like pressing the restart button on a video game console for me.
Yeah.
And I can do it since I've been doing it for so many years. I can, if I'm having a rough day, I can take a nap, wake up, even if the nap was 15 minutes. And just because I woke up and I go into the breathing and maybe a cold shower, it's like literally like I pressed restart and it's a new day, even though it's halfway through the day. It's
totally,
quite a sick hack.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. Like for me, as soon as those feelings do start coming up, there's like three things. Number one is go in the cold, see how that goes. Number two is physical exercise. Number three is meditation. Like they're the three things that if that doesn't work, then I'm out of options. I don't know what happens after that. That's a slippery slope, I think. But it seems to be working so far, and I'm blessed that again, like I found that stuff, because before before, in fact, I've never really thought about this, but before I used to have anxiety. I've definitely suffered with some depression over the years. My way of dealing with it was pretty much partying. And I've never really thought of that, but like that was how I used to deal with it, because I didn't understand it. I'd not been exposed to podcasts. I'd not been exposed to books, really. I'm going back 10, 15 years or something. But again, it's a toolkit, isn't it? Like I'm building out a toolkit. I've got this toolbox now within my arsenal, which is in my brain, and it's in notes and it's in books, that as soon as I have these feelings, boom, you switch to one of those things. You don't just start drinking. You don't just start doing stupid things, sleeping around, doing silly shit. You figure it out. So I've not really thought about that before. Yeah. So thank you for making me aware of that just now.
Dude, no stress. Yeah, it's those self-sabotage behaviors. We all have them, and I think it's just part of growing up. And you have these holes in your life that you need to fill. Because you're just not being fulfilled in certain areas. And then you look to things like, drinking could be one, partying could be one, eating is a big one. Yeah. Dude, there's, so many. Yeah.
Sexual encounters that you shouldn't have.
Oh, yeah, those two.
Definitely. That's, 100%, man. That stuff it's a distraction a lot of the time. And I used it as a distraction for a few years, to be honest. Again, we can get into that in a bit, because I think that is part of what this book's about resistance. A lot of it is just distraction. Just distract yourself from how you're actually feeling and the work that you need to do through drinking, partying, self-sabotage, whatever it might be. But yeah, how
so
about you?
what was the? Oh, sorry.
No, go on after you.
I was gonna say, what is the book? You know, what we should introduce. Well, I guess we should talk about the book title. You know, the War of Art.
War of Art, mate. This book, dude. I love this book. Honestly, I love this shit. It's so good. Like, again, this is one of those things. I think, you know, like we just spoke, for me personally, about number one, as soon as I have any sort of physical or mental like issues, depression, anxiety, or whatever it could be. The fourth thing would probably be this book. So it'd be like cold, physical, it would be meditating. And then I think the fourth thing would be just to read this book. Because it's that inspiring and that much of a kick up the ass for me. This book, dude, like changed the game for me. This book, this is like my all-time favorite book. I'm so hyped to talk about it today, and you know, think about it a little bit more deeply than what I've maybe have done in the past. So, just before we do that, though, has any stuff stuck with you from the last few books that we've done this with?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, like every book, there's little things. The breath thing, just breathing through the nose, that's been big, and still taping my mouth shut. Actually finding that my mouth is staying shut more naturally.
Okay.
Which is pretty sweet, and I'm way more attentive. Like I can, like couple nights I've gone to bed without the tape in my mouth, and I wake up, my mouth's dry, I don't quite feel right. And it's been quite interesting, you know, still experimenting with that. And then, I mean, the mind hacking stuff just always stays, just getting those principles dialed, and the meditations and focusing on certain character traits, and, you know, thinking about guys like Benjamin Franklin and it always stays, and it always builds. I just try to, you know, I often try to revisit them, because I find at around 6 to 8 months, some of the habits will start to slide. So I often try to revisit the book, because I think it takes about 18 months until it gets you ingrained in your system and sticks with you for almost your whole life. So I just try to like re-listen to them. Whenever I feel like I'm slipping, and then get back into it, and then start sliding again, and then re-listen, and sliding again. Yeah. And they have been sticking, and man, I feel great.
Good. I think one thing that I did take away from mind hacking was that the meditation on the daily is important. And I wouldn't say I've gone back and I've done the mind hacking meditations, but I have made sure that every day I do take some time out to meditate, whether it's a guided meditation, whether it's just, I've really been enjoying like doing the sound bath meditation. I don't know if you've experimented with any of that, but like I don't know what they're called, but like the bowls where the people play the bowls, and you know what I mean? Like,
very nice.
Man,
yeah.
I find that so relaxing. It definitely does some crazy shit to my brain. That does. I'll instantly just fall asleep, or just go into some sort of weird trans meditational state. Like, I love that stuff, man. I've really gone down that rabbit hole a little bit and found some people that I like listening to. Discovered a guy on through Instagram, actually, a guy called Born I, who's a hip hop artist that does basically like hip hop to sound bath music. It's nice. Sick, so good. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, you have to get a link in the description here so we can listen to that.
Yeah, we'll check out Born I for sure. And then,
continue.
And then the other one I discovered was Aubrey Marcus's new wife. That's her job. So she's like a sound healer, and that sounds woo woo, right? But he put a video up of her basically singing to that sort of style of music. Oh, beautiful. So good. Yeah, it's not really my normal vibe, but mate, if you just need to relax and just take 10, 15 minutes out, like there's not really much better for me. That one definitely has an impact for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, it's good to talk about these things and bring it to light, because the cycling community, you know, doesn't really know much about it. So it's good. It's good, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the biggest things for me that stayed from mind hacking that I just remembered, because I've been doing it basically since I read the book, but it's just become like kind of more natural now, is whenever you're feeling negative or having any sort of like negative thought, you know, like some sort of like just garbage just passing through your brain. So you kind of like notice it, and you like the higher level you kind of notices it, and it's like, wait a second, what was that? You know?
Yeah.
And then stopping it and basically reprogramming it with a different one. Like just like,
yeah.
And then burying that one in, you know, just a positive version. And that's been working really good, actually.
Good.
Because I'll notice it. Like, I'll just be like, because I'm always trying to instill myself with as much, you know, unconditional love for the whole day. And then all of a sudden, you know, it'll wear off. Maybe in the early afternoon, it starts wearing off, or get triggered by something and starts wearing off. And then these more negative thoughts will start to creep in. And then you just like, literally, as I notice them, just stop them right off the bat, you know, and change them.
Yes, dude. And it's possible to do that, right? Like, it is, once you have that tool to be able to notice it, think about it,
dude,
and then just change it and just be like, nah, I'm not having that thought. Fuck off. I don't need it.
And I don't know whether it's because, you know, I've been through so many terrible crashes and my memory is maybe not the best, but, you know, or maybe I'm just fully engulfed in the present moment, but it doesn't take long, man. I forget.
Really?
And I start feeling much better, which is
the positive
funny.
impacts of a little bit of CTE is like, it's all good.
Totally.
Imagine if that
man.
was like the like the positive impact of any form of CTE was like you forget negativity. So you were just positive all the time. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be insane. But I mean, maybe we should talk about, you know, what is CTE?
I mean, dude,
for our listeners, because I'm sure like I need a little bit of a definition of it. Like,
yeah, I mean, from what I understand of what CTE is, I don't know. Let me just Google what CTE actually stands for, because it's one of those anagrams or whatever that I say, but I don't quite understand the actual longer term of it. So chronic traumatic encephalopathy. No wonder I didn't remember that. Which is basically, CTE is basically the after effects of constant and sort of like repetitive head trauma. Yeah. So I personally don't think it's one of those things. I think you probably had more of this than you think, because apparently there's like certain things that you do that are really bad for, you know, sort of bringing on CTE. So there's things that you'd never even think of, like apparently wakeboarding and stuff like that is the worst, because your brain's constantly moving around in its little shell. But obviously big hits to the head, dude, like constant big hits to the head are the biggest sort of, what would you say, sort of the biggest causes of CTE. So cage fighters, mountain bikers, you know, BMX guys, anything where you're constantly moving around and your head's taking a beating. Is it something you're like mindful of, CTE, obviously? With what you do?
Like obviously, you know, I'm always trying to protect my head, and I'm doing whatever I can not to hit my head. You know, I'd rather break my arms than smoke my dome really hard. And often that's what happens. I end up breaking my arms and my legs instead of hitting my head. You know, I've been really lucky compared to my friends. A lot of my friends have smoked their domes a lot, but me personally, I've only had maybe 2 big head slams, and one of them was during a shoot on this jump, and the other one was the Loop of Doom. And that's really the only big head slaps that I've ever had.
Okay. I guess
and
most people
I always
will be...
wore my helmet, so...
Yeah, most people will be aware of like the Dave Mirra story, you know, of that, you know, repetitive hits to the head. And it's really sad, dude, that, you know, if you look at Dave's story of pushing the boundaries of BMX and carving out this, you know, this career, the detriment of that is that he was hitting his head a lot. and it caused these crazy. I don't even, obviously I'm no brain scientist, dude. Like you might have guessed, I'm not that smart, but from what I understand, it's like bruising on the brain. It's certain neurons don't fire anymore. It brings in, depression and stuff like that. I wish I understood it better. I had a guest on my podcast a while ago, Josh Perry, who was he had like a brain tumor. He's had 3 brain tumors, but that was basically he discovered those brain tumors because of CTE. Well, because of hitting his head and going to the hospital. So he's
Wow.
he's cool, man. You'd really like Josh. I don't know if you know of him, but he grew up riding with Dave Mirra and that little crew in Greenville. So yeah, it's a gnarly thing, man. Real gnarly. It's something that I think everyone needs to be mindful of, like not hitting your head too hard all the time. And taking time off too when you have.
Yeah, and it's good to bring awareness to it because a lot of younger, guys they want to risk it all to become professionals, right? And then risking it too much means more head slams or whatever. And it's definitely good to just talk about it and bring it in to kind of the spotlight a little bit more. So when someone does hit their head, they maybe take a little bit more caution to it. I actually had a really good friend of mine commit suicide because of CTE. He got hit by a rally car filming.
Really? Yeah.
It rocked his dome super hard. And it was about a year and a half later he committed suicide. And it's definitely something that's in the community that quite a few people suffer from that we don't really talk about. We don't really know how to approach it because your body's completely fine.
Yeah.
You look fine. It's just you're not fine. And it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right?
No.
It doesn't make any sense. Your legs are not broken. It's really, really, really difficult, man. And it's good to bring it to the spotlight.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I think anyone who's never, hopefully you've heard of it before, but probably go down the rabbit hole of taking a Google and looking at how many people the world's lost due to this, sports stars. I just had a quick look right now, and the majority of it, to be honest, it's sort of NFL players, hockey players, that sort of thing, cage fighters and stuff like that. There's been some obviously super sort of what would you say, sort of household names that have gone through this. But yeah, it's an interesting topic, man, for sure, and something that as an action sports community we probably need to be really aware of.
Yeah, and wear your helmet.
Yeah.
Dude,
what is that, dude, about
your
certain
helmet.
sports, in action sports, that it's not cool to wear a helmet? There's like skating and stuff. I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously I'm a fan of that sort of sport and BMX and, street and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's kind of mind blowing why you wouldn't. It's like, is it that uncool to wear a helmet?
And it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, so dangerous. Like, man, like X Games reel BMX, Nathan Williams just rocking his dome, like first clip. Dude, wear your helmet, man.
Yeah.
It's
It doesn't
insane.
take much, man, to do a shit ton of damage. Like, if you just slip and hit your head on a curb or something sharp or hard or whatever, you could change your entire life. Like, just because you haven't worn a helmet, it's alien to me. It's kind of strange. But I've been that guy, man. I have been that guy, and I'm happy to say, like, I used to go out street riding just with a hat on, I have been that guy. I'm happy to say, I admit I've been that guy. But looking at it now, I think as you get older, you probably realize that was pretty stupid. Like, even so much as doing a manual down a long hill on a mountain bike with no helmet on is pretty dumb. It's stupid.
Dude, I was also that kid. I would never wear a helmet when I was like 16 to 18. And Pink Bike would refuse to run my videos because of me not wearing a helmet.
Wow,
and,
really?
I was like, it was this big thing. And I was so pissed because I was like, no, man, like none of my heroes wear helmets. And they were all like BMX guys. But, I just bit the bullet. I was like, I'm being stupid. I'm being ridiculous. Like Pink Bike is a huge site. They'll promote my stuff. All I have to do is just wear a helmet. Like, screw it, I'm gonna wear a helmet. And I put one on ever since, man. It saved me so many times.
And got you so many more views.
Yeah, it's so many more views. But also, like, you got to think about it. Like, dude, if Nathan Williams, like, one of the most insane BMXers of all time, can completely rock his dome and throw himself in the hospital for whatever, however long, then think about you.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
Totally.
like, dude,
Yeah.
if Nathan Williams can do that,
Yeah.
like, holy fuck. Like, you know, like, obviously you're not going to be doing stuff half as extreme as him, but also think about how talented he is, and, you know, and then think about your own personal talents, and then
It'll probably
do
run
the
out
math,
real quick.
dude. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it's good, man. I'm glad we spoke a little bit about CTE. So
Dude,
I'd like to learn
me
more
too.
too. I'll be honest. I'm not, I'm by no means understand it fully, but I wish I could explain it way better than what I probably just did. But yeah, hopefully it just makes people more aware anyway. So it's good. It's positive.
That's what these shows are all about. Just making awareness, man. We talk about this stuff. Hopefully people, you know, get a little whiff of it, even if they don't want it. Too bad, you got it.
Yeah, it's in your ears
It's
now.
important. It's important stuff.
For sure.
So War of Art. I think we should get into it.
Yeah, we should. Hyped. Love this book. Oh my God. So when did you first hear of this book, The War of Art?
Seth Godin.
Okay.
That's how I heard about it. Seth Godin, listening to Tim Ferriss podcast, I believe. And he spoke about this book, War of Art. And I'm a huge Seth Godin fan, man. I read his books. He's just so intelligent, man, and such a good guy, and just an amazing learner, and what he's doing for education, and his philosophies on marketing was just blew my mind. Just made so much sense, because it was a lot of things that I have seen in throughout my own career in life. And I've seen these things, and then he was basically just highlighting them on much bigger level and much bigger scales, and where it could go, and just putting it all into words. And I was just like, this is the man. So when he recommended this book, I really, I wrote down all the books he recommended, and I wrote down all of his books, and I just read all of them. Wow. And War on Art, it's definitely, I could definitely see where Seth Godin is influenced by it. This idea of resistance and overcoming the resistance, and then also like the way the book kind of seems like it's assaulting your ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only like 3 hours long, but like it feels like you're getting a 3 hour like stern lecture.
Beat down.
Like just a beat down, man. Just like a full beat down. And I mean, some of the principles really opened my mind and really kind of stuck with me, especially the professional ones.
Okay.
Being a professional.
Yeah.
Just the idea of what defines a professional and what defines an amateur. And I found in building, especially, I definitely borderlined both. It was a little amateur, a little professional. And I remember after reading this book, I really took the big steps towards professionalism.
Okay.
And it was a big payoff for me. It definitely improved all the qualities of my work, improved my philosophy, improved the way I worked, and also improved how happy my clients were. So
really, wow, huge takeaway
for sure.
from this book then, for sure. So do you remember the first? Because you said when I recommended it on the last episode, you said you'd already read it or listened to it. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you first listened?
Yeah, it must have been about 2.5 years ago. maybe, about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when I first came across.
Similar story to me as well, man, about how I discovered this. It was, I think the first time I heard of the book was in Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans. So I was reading that, and that's obviously, basically it's tons of people that are high performers talking about routines and little tips about how they've become successful, quote unquote successful. And in that, one of the questions is, recommend a book, or a book that's changed your life, and it kept coming up in that over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, right, I need to note this one down. And then I really like the Jerry Diaz podcast, Jerry Diaz, the Church of What's Happening Now, and he talked about it all the time. He'd always be like, War of Art, you need to read War of Art. And it's one of those books that just couldn't avoid it, man. It just kept coming into my life of like, you just hear people talk about it, whether someone like Aubrey Marcus, I know Joe Rogan's spoken about it a few times. So it just kept coming up, and I was like, right, I need to read this book. And I, for some reason, thought it would be epic. I thought it'd be like a big chunky book that'd land on the doorstep and be like, and then it came, and it was just this little, I don't know, let me have a look how many pages this thing is. It's not big at all. 165 pages. And bear in mind, when you read this book, I know you listen mostly, but most of the pages have got like basically nothing on them. So some of them have got like even a line on it. So you said you can listen to this whole book in about 3 hours, right? I think you could probably read it. You could read it in the same, surely, because they've done an audiobook. So yeah, it's probably take you about 3 hours if you're a really good reader. If you're not like me, probably 4 hours. I reckon you could read this whole thing. So you can read it within a week, easy, an hour a day. And I love that about it.
Yeah, time invested to return is pretty massive on this read, I would say.
Off the scale with this book. Absolutely off the scale. So yeah, that's for me. Like, it just kept just coming into my life. So yeah, I read it for the first time, probably same as you, probably 2.5, 3 years ago. And I remember after I read it, I shut it and I said to myself, I'm going to read this book every 3 months minimum. And I've pretty much stuck to it. To it. Yeah. And I've bought this book for a bunch of people. I mean, probably not loads, but like, I reckon I've bought this book for like 10 people, and just, like bought it on Amazon and just shipped it out and just been like, oh, you need to read this. Let me ship you a copy. Most recently, Stu Thompson of Cut Media, we were talking on the podcast, and I was like, dude, you need to read this book. Send me your address. I'll send you one. So yeah, I've gifted this book more than any book ever.
That's amazing. So what, what are some of the key takeaways for you on this book? Maybe it's kind of, I'd love to hear your key takeaways.
For sure. So just to give people maybe an overarching understanding of what this book's about. So basically the book is talking about resistance, and resistance is made up of lots of little other words, I'd say, like, procrastination, fear, potential, unlived potential, self-sabotage, and they all filter into this word called resistance. And Steven Pressfield, who wrote this book, he's a fiction writer by trade, I think. So he writes books about Greek mythology and all sorts of stuff like that. And then he basically had this demon called resistance, and he decided to write a non-fiction book about resistance, which I think is really cool because it's not his normal style of writing. I've not read another Steven Pressfield book, but from what I understand, it's totally different to anything he normally writes. So yeah, we'll probably go a little bit deeper into some of these as we go on, dude. But like, for me, the main takeaway is that whenever I need that kick up the ass to stop being lazy, to stop being negative, to level up something that I'm doing, whether it's the podcast or business, or you could, no doubt, you could relate this to riding or whatever, that this is the main thing to go to for me. Like, I read this book and it talks about, like you said, about going from amateur to pro, talks about, basically explains all of the ways that resistance might be manifesting within you. And It just like, dude, it gives you a beat down. You said it. That's perfect. Like it will beat you down, show you your insecurities, show you how you're self-sabotaging, and you'll come out of this book way better. I feel like you'd come out of this book a way better person with motivation.
Yes. Yeah, certainly the first two parts of the book are quite extraordinary. The first part about resistance and just like what it is really interesting, because a lot of people feel it in their lives and they don't really have a word for it. So just the fact that he labels that force and makes it kind of apparent to you is kind of an interesting and special thing, because I felt like once I had this force resistance labeled, it was easy to identify. And I'm already like pretty self-motivated and already overcoming certain things most of the time. But, certainly resistance does kick my ass sometimes. And it was just good to have a name for it and just know what it was. And sometimes I would lose to it. And I would just be like, fucking resistance. God damn it. What a formidable opponent. Like, fuck yeah. And that's the cool thing about the book. I think that maybe it doesn't really highlight, but, resistance, it's basically just a battle against you. It's you against you, right?
Totally.
And it's pretty cool to have it labeled.
Like you said as well, with labeling it, I think you said something similar about mind hacking, about just having that label where you can go, oh, this is that thing. Like, this is resistance. Okay, this is how it's manifesting at the moment. Whether it's, there's loads of ways that this could be happening. It could be whether a phone call that you're just worried about making, that's resistance. Whether it's a new diet you want to start, that's resistance, and you never quite get there. I don't know, a jump you want to hit, but you're too worried, that's fear/resistance. There's all these little things that but it's cool to have that word to go, this is resistance. Like, this is what that is. I was just going to, if it's okay, because I've got it open right here. So the first part of the book basically explains resistance's greatest hits. And then he detailed, the following is a list in no particular order of the activities that most commonly elicit resistance. So there's probably people listening to this. You're going to fall into one of these categories, right? So is that okay? Is it cool?
Yeah, hell yeah. Read it away. It's awesome.
All right, man. So number 1, the pursuit of any calling in writing, painting, music, film, dance, or any creative art, however marginal or unconventional. Number 2, the launching of any entrepreneurial venture or enterprise for profit or otherwise. Number 3, any diet or health regimen. Number 4, any program of spiritual advancement. Number 5, any activity whose aim is tighter abdominals. That's so funny. Number 6, any course or program designed to overcome an unwholesome habit or addiction. Number 7, education of every kind. Number 8, any act of political, moral, or ethical courage, including the decision to change for the better unworthy pattern or thought or conduct in ourselves. Number 9, the undertaking of any enterprise or endeavor whose aim is to help others. Number 10, any act that entails commitment of the heart, the decision to get married, to have a child, to weather a rocky patch in a relationship. Number 11, the taking of any principled stand in the face of adversity. So that's his greatest hits of how resistance can come up and be a pain in your ass. And
I'm sure there's much more. I'm sure there's many more, and I'm sure they're different for everybody. But just the ideas and examples of it and just creating the label is just so powerful.
Yeah, totally. Has there been any moment that you can think of in your life where resistance and getting over resistance has been profound?
Man, good question. Well, I definitely always have been battling resistance, just like all of us throughout our whole lives. And I think luckily my parents and family just installed a fucking insane work ethic to just overcome this resistance force and just put your head down and just kick ass.
Yeah.
I think that for me, my biggest problem is just make sure I'm going in the right direction. Like I can go any direction I want, and it doesn't matter what's there. It could be thorny bushes, a 1,000-foot wall, mountains, whatever. Like I can deal with it. It's just like, is that the right direction?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
To go, you know?
Yeah.
So
but ultimately, it always is the right direction, because no matter.
I mean, no, maybe, but sometimes it's not the right direction, you know, like ultimately, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it is the right direction because you went down that road, you learned a lesson, you failed. It told you, you know, you recalibrated, you refocused, you chose a different direction, you went for it, you failed, you know. Yeah. But I think ultimately in my own life, the resistance part was just nice to have a label for it because I was already very familiar with the force, and it just doubled down my efforts to you know, overcome it even harder because now I knew exactly what it was when it came up, and I was like, okay, yeah, I got this. I know what's on the other side. Just got to push through. It's all good. This is totally common on the, you know, the path I'm on. It's just different, you know, when you're following your heart and you're doing what you love. It's just always, you know, well, not always, but sometimes it's different than what's considered normal, and that means that the road is less traveled, and that means that there's fucking trees across the road, and some parts of the road are blown out, and some bridges are down. You gotta get wet across the river, like whatever. So for me, it wasn't so much the resistance part; just kind of added more fuel to the fire. For me personally, it was definitely the qualities between being a professional and an amateur that really kind of like lit the fire for me. But
really, yeah.
But I'd be interested to hear your perspective because I think that maybe for you it was the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I was thinking about earlier today actually was how I feel like for some people it's going to be easier to overcome resistance depending on your upbringing, and you just touched on that a little bit too, right? So the way I was thinking about it is, for me, I've always been in a family, I guess, that promotes just following whatever path you feel like you should be on. So whether that is, so for me, it's been like, you know, leaving school at an early age and going down a path of wanting to just make a living out of action sports, you know, whether it's somehow in the industry. I've always been known that I'm going to be within this industry somehow. So it started off early as like being a moto mechanic, you know, going and doing supercross and motocross and stuff like that. And then it was like working on a supercross team was like my ultimate goal. All these little careers that aren't traditional. But the way I was thinking about it too is there'll probably be a lot of people that have grown up within a family structure that doesn't really think outside the box, right? So maybe I think it seems to happen a lot in like medical practice families. So the granddad, whatever, was a doctor, the dad's a doctor, and you know, you're the son, and the expectation is you're going to go to university, you're going to be a doctor. So stepping outside of that box, overcoming an inner resistance of following a path that you want to go on is going to be harder for certain people if you've not been exposed to it and not been allowed to have the freedom of doing your own thing. I think that's something I've been really thinking about, actually, especially today. But yeah, I know personally within like my friendship group, there's a lot of people that their career and their journey through life was almost predestined because they're trying to live up to the expectation of the family, which is kind of sad if you really think about it. You know, you're your own person, you've got your own goals, and you've got your own path that you want to go down. So I feel very lucky that my life has been not predestined, you know, it's not been predetermined. I remember my dad always being like, do not come into the family business. It's a shit show. Like you don't need to be in here being a car mechanic. You need to just go and do your own thing. And I've never had any like limitations to what that is. It's always been like, oh, cool. Like you want to be a supercross, like motocross mechanic. You want to be a motocross rider. Like you want to be a professional athlete. That's cool. Like you just go and do that. And then it's always been, okay, you're going to start a distribution company. Cool. Yeah, do that. That's cool. There's never been anyone telling me that that's a bad idea. There's going to be like little comments here and there especially from my mum's side, who's like, maybe you should go to college, maybe you should go to university or something. But I feel like for me, it's quite easy to overcome resistance or easier to overcome resistance because I've never had to, it's never beaten me, if that makes sense. It's never been an issue. It's just like, okay, I know what it is, but I know that I can overcome it and I can go down whatever path I want to go down. So yeah, that for me, that's a major takeaway. I think this book definitely always makes me reflect on that a little bit. But then the way that like through the everyday sort of resistance for me, it's like there's often times within, especially through business, like you don't want to make that phone call. It's going to be awkward. And you know that resistance is telling you like, well, just do it tomorrow. Like, it's cool. Do it tomorrow. Do it in an hour.
Yep.
Do it in 2 hours. Do it next week. But the feeling you get when you notice, oh, that's resistance telling me not to do that, I'm going to do it now, is amazing. It's so good because you know you've beat that inner muse. You've got over the hump.
Totally. And sometimes you can do that and sometimes you can't. But at least if you know what it is, then it's okay. And like I was talking before, like I was this almighty Hercules of a man just fucking up resistance everywhere I go. But dude, for real, like resistance has kicked my ass so many times. And that's okay. You know, it's part of being human. You're not going to win all the time. And sometimes you got to lose and you got to take the lessons from the loss. And that's definitely been a part of it. But at least to know what it is nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you just like, yes. Okay,
can you think of a time where like resistance has beaten you?
Okay, well, the other day, I'm really bad at pull-ups. You know, I've been trying to get my pull-up game going. A lot of time riders, especially as you get older, a lot of guys don't know this, so this would be really cool, but a lot of older professionals go through shoulder issues when around in their 30s, and I believe it's because the posture that you're on a bike, you know, you're holding your handlebars, you're constantly just like, you know, you know, you're working your chest muscles. And what ends up happening is you pull your shoulders forward, your back becomes very weak. And one wrong mishap and you get hit the right way and your shoulder goes right out the back. Yeah. So it's really important to keep your back strong. And so as someone who wants to ride hard, you know, well into their like 40s, whatever, maybe even 50s, who knows? Like just as long as I find it fun and awesome. I've been trying to get my back game dialed, and man, these pull-ups are crushing me. So much resistance. Like, oh, you don't want to go to the bar. Like even getting to the bar, you get to the bar. Okay, you're like, man, I made it to the pull-up bar. Okay, let's go. And the other day, resistance kicked my ass on the 19th pull-up. I couldn't make it up.
Wow.
To 20, right? And dude, like I'm not Hercules, man. Like my pull-up game's so weak. I'm doing like 4 sets of 5 pull-ups, right?
Okay. Yeah.
4 a go. That's good for me, you know? I'm working on it. And I was like, okay, today 20. Let's do this. And on the 19th one, man, resistance came in, kicked my ass. But part of all this stuff I'm learning, instead of being really hard on myself, you know, I'm really trying to be my own best friend. So I was just like, God damn it, resistance. You kicked my ass. And then it's just, you know, bring it in with some self-love. Like, hey, dude, it's okay. Like 19 pull-ups is still really good. Like you should be really stoked. Like, you know, your legs aren't broken. You're healthy. And I just like, you know, smothered myself with love and held my head up and walked away. There's nothing I could do. My arms weren't working anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Whatever.
And you are physically stronger after those 19 than what you were before you walked up to that pull-up bar, which is amazing.
And the next day I got the 20. So it's all good, you know, it's all good. And I wish that maybe this book showed a little bit more self-love because it's definitely an important part of overcoming resistance. But it's just cool to know what it is. And that's my example of resistance.
Totally. I think, no, you're right, actually. And I think one aspect of this book, which I probably don't like, is how it's a bit, how would you put it? It can be a bit like go all in or nothing. And I think, like you just said, there's certain times where you do need to dial it back a little bit. You know, a lot of what this book talks about is showing up and doing the work every day. But some days you need to take a day off so that the next day you go in full of energy. And I think that's probably, like you said, it's self-love, but it's also a case of sometimes you do need to just wind it back a little bit and go, you know what, it's okay. Like 19 pull-ups is fine today. Or laying in bed for another hour is okay today because I've shown up to do the work for 10 days, no break. So
yeah,
I agree with you on that.
Thanks. And I think it goes directly into, really transitions well into the next part of the book between being a professional and an amateur. And part of being a professional is, withholding to your commitments, right? Yeah. So I think that just understanding your time and withholding to your commitments is the win. Like, I committed to go to the pull-up bar. I made it to the pull-up bar. Like fuck yeah. I didn't get 20, but that's okay. That was another commitment, but it was almost like a bonus commitment. The main commitment was just make it to the bar. And I think that as long as you're making your main commitments and you're getting there and you're showing up and you're bringing it, because I showed up to the bar and I was like, all right, bar, I'm going to fucking kick your ass today. Let's go. And although I got my ass kicked, whatever, like I still showed up and gave my 100%. And I think that's what he's more or less talking about in changing your mindset to becoming a professional, just making it to your commitments and giving it 110%.
Yeah.
And
totally.
then whatever the result is, it's okay. Whatever. You showed up, check out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some cool.
So most of it's true, man. But most of this book is basically, so Steven Pressfield being a writer. So most of this journey of the book is about him overcoming resistance to sit at the typewriter and just do the work. And it's a great analogy for life, if you ask me, because that's what it's about, man. It's about just showing up and doing the work, no matter what it is that you're aiming for. If you just keep showing up and you just keep grinding it out, it will happen. And I think hopefully we've all experienced this in our lives. And if you haven't, you're going to, this, for me, like this podcast is a great analogy for this too. So this took years of just showing up and just doing the work, even though, there's points, no one's listening to this shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you could miss today. You could just not put an episode out this month. No one would give a fuck. Like, but you just keep showing up and you just keep grinding it out. And that is so important across everything that I do with my life. Like, a lot of the sales side of what I do with Hook It, with the distribution side, it's about just making the phone calls and just showing up every day. Keep sending the emails, keep calling people. Because over time, things start happening. But it's really difficult to overcome that little bit of resistance, which is telling you like, oh, you can contact that guest next week. It doesn't really matter. No one's listening anyway. But been like, nah, I'm gonna drop this guy a DM. I really want to sit and chat to him. He'd make a great podcast guest. And then it happens, and then you feel so much better for it because it opens a door, whatever. But or you make a sale or whatever it could be, or I think for a lot of people, this is something that I really want to talk about, right? Because this scares the shit out of me. Unlived potential is so scary to me. Like, I know this is like towards the end of the book, the unlived potential, man. And I always think about, it's kind of dark, but I always think about my life of being on your deathbed and having a regret would be the worst. And a lot of that regret, let's say you get there, you're on your deathbed and you're like, fuck, I should have started that project. I should have started that podcast. I should have wrote that book. I should have done this, that, started that business. All of that regret will be because of resistance, because something told you not to do that. And that scares the shit out of me. It scares me. It does the same about my friends, my family. If any of my friends that are like, oh, I might start this business, I'm like, do it. Don't regret not doing it. The fact that you've already had that thought of starting it means that you should 110% start it. But don't, and also this pisses me off, don't start a half-ass. Like, if you're going to start a project, go all in on it. Show up every day and make it happen. And yeah, unlived potential, dude. Oh,
and I feel you. I feel you, and it's certainly one of my biggest fears too. And maybe that's why we gel so well with doing these podcasts and stuff. And maybe that's why we're, lifetime learners. But
yeah,
it's this idea of unlived potential. And then here's another idea. Potential is limitless. So, like, am I capable of, is my capabilities as a human limitless? And from my personal experience, it seems to be the case. With a little bit of time and effort, you never know how you can change and what can come of the changes. It's quite extraordinary. And this whole thing of unlived potential, it's a double-edged sword, because at one point it's this drive for you to reach your potential in every moment of life. And what's on the other side of this untapped potential? If sometimes, it means you're pushing too far. You're going beyond your capabilities because you're trying to max this shit out as hard as possible. And then that means failure. And then it's like, holy fuck. Then you got the failure and you got to deal with the failure. And that's part of the game, I think. Trying to live to your potential is because you often, fail trying to find it, like, where the hell that line ends, because you're just pushing it so hard. You're like, holy fuck, I could do this. Well, what if I did this and that? And then what if I did this, that, and this? And then all of a sudden you're like, fucking, okay, that was sick. Well, now I can do this, that, and this. And then you fuck it up and you just, bam, land on your face and everything's fucked. And then you're like, God damn it, back to the drawing board. And you got to start all again. But and then when you get back to that point where you failed, in order to push forward, there's this giant fear block. It's like the resistance doubles because you understand what happens if you fail. And this is this constant journey of life. And it's quite beautiful. And, I encourage anyone to go to their full potential. But I also tell them, hey, man, like, especially in riding, it's dangerous. So sure, you're capable of that move, but at least understand what you're risking on the table, because at some point, maybe it's not worth it to find out what you're truly capable of.
That's all I was thinking when you were talking then. It's a great analogy for what you do for a living, right? It's about that unlived potential of, can you land that trick? Can you take it that little bit too far? Or not maybe too far, but like go to that extreme end. And sometimes, if it was like a rev limiter, sometimes you're going to go into the red and then you're going to dial it back a little bit. Or maybe you're going to get hurt and it's going to go all the way back to 0 and then you're going to start dialing it back up again. I feel like it's like that's pretty much what you do for a living, right? Is you just go to the edge and then you bring it back.
But you can do it in anything. I think that the best example would be Ford versus Ferrari. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay, so you should watch this movie and then you'll fully understand what I'm talking about. But for our listeners who have seen the movie, when they're racing, LeBron, or I forget what the track is called. Anyways, it's this 24-hour race.
Oh, the Le Mans.
Yes, and they got the most incredible race cars there. And the driver is driving this car as fast as possible, but he doesn't want to push it too far because then the car explodes and blows up. So it's this constant thing where you're just trying to like find your potential, where you're just bringing the car to like 7,000 RPM, 8,000, sometimes 9,000 RPMs when you need to, but then also backing off and being careful so the car doesn't explode. And that's kind of what it's like going through life, trying to live to your fullest potential.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so good. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, obviously you can go too far by, I guess, thinking of, oh, can you? I don't know if you can. I don't know.
Yeah, I've definitely gone too far. Like,
Oh, really? Okay, so what's an
yeah,
example
for
of
sure.
maybe
Like,
going too far?
well, the best example is when I was at the top of the roll-in going to hit that massive loop. You know, here I am, like, at the top of the roll-in, and I'm just like thinking about life. Where's it going to go? I see two directions. You know, one is walking down the stairs, regret, deep regret and failure, and just this terrible feeling for the rest of my life, you know, being on the deathbed, just thinking, you know, and what would I be thinking about? The other path, which is down the roll into the loop. Where's that going to take me? What if I land the loop? You know, all this untapped potential. Like, am I capable of doing it? Okay, here's a big problem. I don't think I can live my life if I don't find out if I'm capable of doing this stunt. You know, I need to learn. I need to know if I'm capable, if I can live up to this. And so I went for it.
Yeah.
and dude, I almost killed myself in the process. And I not only almost killed myself, I affected a lot of people. I gave some people post-traumatic stress disorder because they watched their best friend almost kill themselves. I probably damaged the reputation of mountain bikers in general. You know, some people who doesn't know anything about bicycling or cycling or mountain bikes in general could look at that video and just be like, these guys are fucking crazy. No way I'm going to let my kid go buy a mountain bike. You know, so you got to think about that as you're going through your path to find your potential. And that's why I think it's important to have a good relationship with yourself and reality, so you can kind of figure out where your potential is and when you're truly capable of something and when you're actually not.
Yeah.
On that day, because it changes every day, you know.
Do you long for that level of commitment in your life? Does that make sense? Like, do you miss? So we were talking earlier about how you need meditation, you need the cold. Do you need to go to that extreme to have those feelings, to put things into almost like a perspective?
No, you don't need to do that.
No, you
but
personally, do you not need, you don't need that?
No, I don't need to do that. But
did you need that before?
No, what I needed before was, I guess, validation and love.
Okay.
That's what I was searching for, you know. Yeah. But I found that, you know. I got that. I don't need that now. And now it's more of a chase of finding out what you're truly capable of in this lifetime. And respecting life as well. And that means walking away sometimes, some days.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just like you. It's the same thing. It's this drive to live up to your potential. And I have no idea what that potential is, because it's limitless, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. And we all have capabilities in different areas. You know, your potential is limitless in every area of your life, and it all depends which areas you're interested in expanding. And someone like me or you who want to live and be to the best people we can be and maximize our potential as humans on this earth, you know, it can go in many different ways, and it'll change all the time. And sure, right now, my personal part of my personal living up to my personal potential is doing fucking sick tricks on a mountain bike. But eventually that'll max out. I'll reach my potential. I'll reach it, and I'll be like, okay, sweet, that's awesome. But what else is going on? And there'll be other things to do. You just take the same method and you apply it to those. Yeah. And hopefully it's less dangerous.
Well, yeah, hopefully. That's so interesting though, man, because, you know, like you said, we seem to live our lives quite similar. You know, I'm always trying to improve, be better, not just for myself, but for everybody else around me. You know, I'm trying to be better for my girlfriend, my business partners, you know, my podcast listeners. Like, I'm trying to be better for them. I want to be a better person. Like, I want to do better stuff. I want to help people. And that's been quite an interesting journey of overcoming that thing, but also getting some purpose and like trying to figure out like, okay, like what am I all about? And then what other things can I add into this being of me, this meat flesh, to make me a better person? Like, I want to leave this place a little bit better than how I came into it. I don't really know what that entirely means, but I think it's always interesting thinking about the podcast, because potentially this thing could live forever. Like, after we're dead, like, this audio file will be somewhere in the ether. And that's kind of a trip, right? It's insane. But to be able to even do this, we had to have the idea to do it. We had to overcome resistance. There was a time, man, where I had to overcome probably some resistance to drop you a message to ask you to be on my podcast. And then it's opened up this thing. So that's the thing, right? About unlived potential. It's like, you know, if I hadn't done that, what would I be doing now? So weird.
Totally. And I think it's important for our listeners to know that unlived potential is everywhere. You know, it's in how you go down the stairs and interact with the first person you see. There's potential there. It's how you walk down the stairs. Are you fully you're engaging all your muscles in your legs and feeling the stairs? There's potential there. You're drinking a glass of orange juice. You know, are you just going to gulp it down thinking about other things, or are you going to maximize the potential in drinking that glass of orange juice and fully feel and taste everything in that glass? Like, this is everything, and it's not just for your career. You know, it's for your relationships and how you live your life. So it's good we got to talk about that, man. That's good.
Definitely. I always like to think of it as like, you know, you have two lives. You have the one that you're going through right now, and then you have the unlived life, which is all of the opportunities that you haven't taken, all of those little bits that you should have done.
The unlived life. The unlived life. I don't want to think about the unlived life. That's not in my thought process in my brain. No room for that.
So how else has like resistance been sort of a thing in your life? Like, is there any other sort of what would you say, sort of any other examples of resistance and overcoming them?
Yeah, I got a good one. I mean, every morning when I wake up and reach for my cell phone to turn the alarm off.
Nice. Yeah.
Dude, there's some resistance right there, man. Like,
yeah, there is.
Am I going to open up Instagram, or am I going to shut it down and open up the Wim Hof app and get my breathing going and get some exercising going? And, you know, I never leave my bed without doing the breathing and without kicking in my morning routine. But there's this big moment of resistance where Instagram just slides in, and sometimes it wins, and I spend 30 minutes, maybe even 40 sometimes in the morning just scrolling the gram, time warped, you know, don't even realize what's happening. Resistance just kicking my ass.
Dude,
or sometimes I overcome it, you know, and that's it.
It was so interesting on the last episode when you said how the thing is with you and social media and Instagram is that it's full of so much praise. And that's something that's really stuck with me, actually, because that is almost part of the addiction of it. If you do something where you're creating content, or like good content, and people want to give you props, it is addictive, man. It's addictive. And every time, you know, I've thought about it way more since you said that. But that is part of the factor for me, is like when you open up the messages and go on the DMs, it's people saying, oh, I really enjoyed this, or really enjoyed that, or thank you for talking about this thing. And that becomes addictive in itself, because it's almost like a pat on the back every time you look at that thing. And if you gave someone, you know, if you gave someone a button and said, every time you press that button, you're going to get this chemical reaction in your brain and it's going to make you feel really good. People are pressing that button all day long. And that's what we do with social media.
Yeah,
And
it's nuts, man.
yeah,
It's nuts.
slide into the DMs, people, and just give me some hate so I don't want to look at it.
I don't do hate in my life, so don't even think about it. But yeah, dude, it's really tough to overcome that. And it's really interesting. I really look up to Laird Hamilton. I think as a man, he's probably the best example of what I want to become and age to be, just like that guy, man. And
Totally.
and or anything remotely like him, dude. Anyways, but part of what he talks about, which is going to link into our addiction to social media quite nice, is he says that part of being like a man is a full-grown man is to, how am I going to put this without sounding crazy? To be centered in your actions and not to get too excited when things are good and not to get too bummed out when things are bad. To just pick your path, put your head down, go for it, and kick ass. But when things are going really good, don't get too attached to that. Don't focus on that too much. Just keep your eye on the ball. And when things are going really bad, yeah, that's happening, but don't get bummed out. Don't get too bummed out about that. Just keep your eye on where you're going and staying on your path. And I find that through the phone and social media and through receiving all the praise is probably the worst thing for me, because it basically makes me it inflates your ego. It gets you oh yeah, you just open up your phone every day and people telling you you're the shit. Well, dude, in a year or 2 years of that, dude, you're going to start thinking you're the shit. And dude, that's not good, man. That's going to totally affect how you interact with people. It's going to make you feel more important than others. It's going to make you feel like maybe you deserve a little more love than the average person. And that's not good, because it's not true. We're all equal. We all deserve just as much love, and we all deserve respect, and attention. And if you start feeling like you deserve more, that's not good, man. That's going to affect your decision-making process, and that's going to lead to big failures. Because
so how do you balance that? What are your tips for how do you balance it? And in fact, it's funny because I was actually thinking about this again last night, because I saw that, hopefully we can just do a little plug for this as well towards the end, but you've got a new edit coming out on Monday, right?
Yeah, this is a prime example. I posted that teaser. Dude.
The comments were just sick. And I was thinking, this is what we spoke about the time before, about all the props and stuff. So how do you balance it? What do you do?
I think, as an artist, you just focus on creating art and doing the art. You try not to pay attention to what people are saying about it, even though it's so addicting. I can't help it. It's been so hard to stay off my phone for the last hour. I mean, the last 24 hours, just because it's just blowing up so hard. And you're like, oh, fuck, look, he commented. Oh, shit, he saw it. He's giving me respect. Dude, oh, man, that's the same. Makes you feel really good. And that's okay, It's cool to receive praise, but at the same time, you just got to let it kind of slide off, and just keep your eye focused on what you're doing and what you're striving for, and not letting any of this kind of go to your head, because the next video could come out, everyone could be like, dude, you fucking suck. It wasn't even close to as good as that last one. What the hell, man? And I mean, as long as each project is true to me and my self-expression, that's okay. And I can't let it damage that. And actually, I was thinking, it's so funny that we're talking about this. I'm thinking, dude, as soon as I can afford it, I'm going to have someone else handle my social media.
Yeah.
To stay even further away from it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so you can
No,
just
dude.
stay focused on the art and
Yep.
just being a solid person, not letting this kind of, you know, get to you.
Yeah, totally, man. And that'd be a very sort of mindful way of doing that. I think that'd be I don't really know what the wording is, I'm sorry, but like for you to make that decision would be huge because it's such an addicting thing. It's something that as an athlete, you rely on it. So to step away from it and just focus on the art of what you do and then giving that art to someone else to post, and so you don't even get involved, would be almost like a very stoic way of living your life. Like you're detached from that. But it is interesting because it does come full circle back to this book, doesn't it? How it's all about just doing the work. And I think someone else who's got this really down, it'd be Joe Rogan. As much as I love Joe Rogan, with, you know, everything he does and stuff, one thing he does always say, which is really cool, is that he doesn't read YouTube comments. He doesn't, like, he posts on his social media and he just drops it and doesn't look at it. Now, obviously, we're talking about a level of fame which is, you can't even comprehend that, most of us. You know, you've got way big, you know, you've got probably a better grasp on that than I would, and most of the people listening to this podcast, you know, with the social media. But to do that and just walk away knowing that in the background, the DMs are going hectic, the comments are hectic, but not to look, that is a very stoic and a very, sort of, I don't really know, I wish I had the words for it, but a very sort of grown up, I'd say, actually, way of living life, of not being too attached to that.
Keeps
and
you
not,
whole.
Yeah. And it doesn't let the ego get too heavy.
Totally. Because, like, part of me, you know, I got whatever, like 400 people commented on my teaser, you know, that I posted. And I'm just, you know, I just want to say thank you to all those 400 people. Like, thank you, man, for, you know, thank you for taking the time to watching it. And thank you for also commenting on it. I really appreciate it, especially the nice comments. You know, you just want to go through there and you just want to be like, dude, like, thank you so much. That feels great.
Yeah.
And it's just, at some level, it's impossible. Last night, I was scrolling through my comments, trying to reply to all these people. Yeah. And write back some people. And then I realized at a certain moment, I just couldn't. It was midnight. I've been doing it for like 2 hours. And I realized that I had commitments to do this with you. I needed a good sleep.
Yeah.
At some point, you just have to remove yourself from the whole thing because the commitment is just so great that you can't continue to be you, and you can't continue to focus on your art, which is making all these people happy. So you got to make the changes in your life to go for that. And I'm sure that's what Joe Rogan goes through, and that's a whole nother level of it, you know?
Can't even imagine what that's like.
It's just a tsunami of it, of whatever it is, you know? And I think for celebrities, it must be tough because I think a lot of it is hate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, you always hear stories about
that.
Dude, honestly, I wouldn't even, I mean, I've had negative comments and things, and I've learned not to read anything as well. Like, I'm pretty good at that, especially on certain websites, you know, certain large mountain bike websites where people will be kind of ruthless. I've learned not to even look at that stuff anymore because you just focus on the art, like focus on what it is that you're doing. And it's a very nice feeling too, when you don't really worry about anyone else. Like, you're doing this because it feels right for me. And you know that out there are people that actually enjoy listening or that will take something away from it. Everything else is just nothing. Like, you know,
and that's what we've been talking about. That's why it's important to get your purpose dialed.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's important to get your principles down. What do you want to be in this life? What do you want to become? And then just put your head down and go for the work. And that's what the best thing about this book is. It just reminds you about all of that. And it talks really good in the beginning about some principles and figuring out, you know, what it is that your true calling is. And it's, it's quite nice. Some of the qualities that I really liked was was the qualities that define a professional. And I wrote them down. Would
Oh,
you mind
man.
if I read them?
Yeah.
I would love to read these, and then I would love for you to maybe expand on them, since this is
try.
your favorite book.
I'll try.
Okay, so we got number 1, we show up every day. Number 2, we show up no matter what. It's kind of like number 1 and number 2. Number 3, we stay on the job all day. Number 4, we are committed over the long haul. Number 5, the stakes for us are high and real. Number 6, we accept remuneration for our labor, I guess money or compensation. 7, we do not over-identify with our jobs. Number 8, we master the techniques of our jobs. Number 9, we have a sense of humor about our jobs. Number 10, we receive praise or blame in the real world.
Okay. Beautiful. Mate, I was just trying to find them in the book, but I can't. Oh, I found them. Amazing. How about that? Found them.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. It's like I know this thing inside out. It's on page 69.
Great number.
Okay. I mean, I'll probably just like talk about how these would relate to me, if that's okay, and like other
Of
people out
course.
there. I think that's probably going to work.
I think
So-
your personal thing would be great because I really view you as a professional, man, especially in the podcasting and throughout. So I think it'd be great to hear you speak to these.
I think the first one, so like we show up every day. This is for me, like this is pretty important, especially right now because it's hard to show up every day to work, especially when we're in this weird time of lockdown. For me, showing up every day means being in this room, and it's been hard at times to be in here, knowing that you're going to be here tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after. But that is a massive part of being a professional is you show up and you do the work. Like that's exactly what this is talking about, right? You show up on time. I think having schedule and having a routine is very important because otherwise at the moment, again, you know, with how we're living our lives in lockdown and stuff, it's very easy to not show up every day. I could every morning just go downstairs, put Netflix on and sit and watch some bullshit series for the day. And what's cool actually is the way I think about this and the way I do think about this is for me, like I'm self-employed as well, right? I work for me. No one is going to complain. No boss is going to call me and be like, you didn't go to work today. I answer to myself, but I am very proud to say that throughout this whole thing, I've shown up every single day and I haven't given myself like, unless I've put it in the calendar and I've given myself a day off, I've shown up every day. So for anyone
what I said, dude, you're professional, man.
But for anyone who's out there who's, you know, maybe looking at starting this new thing, whether it's a podcast or a business or whatever, showing up every day and putting the work in is the most critical and most important thing you can do. Because even if it feels like you're getting nowhere, you're getting somewhere. You're going further than what you did before you walked in and started. Even if it's just thinking about it for a little bit. We show up no matter what. Again, same thing. It's the same thing. You show up no matter what. If it's raining, it's cold, it's miserable. If you're going to work out, you work out. And I've been thinking about that quite a lot because we're in winter right now here, right? I don't have a gym near. I hate gyms. I don't go to the gym. So when I work out outside in my garden, and I have kettlebells, and they're freezing cold, and it's raining, and it's wet, it's miserable, it's windy. But if you're going to work out, you go out and you do that workout, man, no matter what. Like you put some headphones in, you crank up some Slayer and you get the fuck on with it. So,
that's awesome.
Staying on the job all day. Again, I think for anyone who's starting something or looking at starting something, make yourself a schedule and just stay on that path. Like if it's, for me, I work in 2-hour blocks. So it starts 8 till 10. Little bit of a break. It goes like 11:30 to 1:30, and I do that all day until I allow myself time to stop at the end of the day. But yeah, putting schedule in place is pretty important. Overcome resistance. Again, make a schedule, overcome it. But being committed to the long haul. I think we live in a society, dude, right now where instant gratification, right? People want that instant thing. And gone are the days of building a business or a podcast or a whatever over the long term. People want it now. Like they see success online and they're like, why has that guy got 500,000 followers and I've got 5? Like, I want 500,000. But there's a lot of shit. Like any businessman you talk to, 90% of the time, there's going to be a few like fucking outliers, right? But it looks like an overnight success, but someone's been putting in the groundwork for years and years. Look at Matt's new edit that's just about to come out, right? That shit, that level of riding didn't just happen last week. That's from starting to ride a bike.
Yeah, I mean, that's years. That's years in the works.
And you've been committed,
totally
right? You've been committed. Probably almost every day of your life, you've put in the work and you've got yourself to that level of riding. And now look at the outcome. People are commenting, people are stoked. But it takes fucking years. And a lot of the hardest thing of that actually is it takes a long time where no one notices what you're doing. So you'll have had days out in the woods digging trails. Nobody even knows you're out there doing it, but you put in the work.
That's why you gotta love it, man.
Yeah, you gotta love it, and you just gotta stay on the path. Okay, the next one. The stakes for us are high and real. This is quite good actually, because I hate when people go half-assed on things. Like I
gonna
fucking
burn
hate
the
it,
bridge.
Man. I hate it. I hate when someone like starts a project or a business. Or I had a friend actually, he's probably going to listen to this, so sorry, who started like a bike shop that was only open for like 1 hour a week, and then would complain like it's not really paying the bills. And I'm like, you're either in or you're out. Like it's as simple as that. You're either going all in and commit, or just don't bother at all. Like do something else with your time. Man, I feel so preachy right now.
This is good. I like this, man. Yeah, this is good. Keep going.
But it's true, man. So many people will be like, oh, I want to start this thing. I want to, well, do it. Like, it's amazing what happens when you put everything on the line. So I remember like starting the distribution side of what I do with Hook It. The first 2 years of that, I legit, dude, couldn't really afford to eat. But going all in and making sure that you have to do all of the things that we've already talked about in this, showing up every day. You have to show up every day. If you don't, you can't eat. Put it on the line, like go all in. We accept remuneration for our labor. This is a strange one for me personally, because there's a fine line, and hopefully we're going to talk about this as well, about thinking about yourself as a business. He calls it Me Inc. And especially when you start like a passion project, when it turns into a business, it's bloody hard. It's really difficult. And I don't know how you feel about that too, like of being a pro athlete, that like you're in this scene. This is how I think about it. You're in this like really cool scene of mountain biking, and there's like amazing people in there, but you have to pay your bills. And oftentimes you'll feel like you don't want to take money off of a sponsor because you're like, nah, you guys keep it, like, keep building your business, keep doing this. Whereas, you might end up being that guy that's just literally risking your life for free because you don't want to be that guy that's taking money off people. And that's a really interesting thing. And I think I've definitely been through it personally with the podcast, and like having sponsors come on board and not really maybe feeling like you're worthy of that, or that it's big enough or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, it can feel really disheartening when you're sat here doing, again, maybe like a 3-hour conversation, which then leads into 9 hours of editing, which leads into, and it's all for free. And then you still can't pay your bills at the end of it. And all you've got is some social media things of people saying, nice, that was cool. And some figures on a screen, which don't really matter anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that, I'll just speak to that one too for real quick. I think for me personally, it's just it's hard to ask for compensation sometimes. And being a professional, like in this book, it says that that's an important part of being a professional is just asking and sending your invoice and not even feeling bad about it or anything because it's just part of the job or whatever.
Yeah.
And for me, I certainly struggled with this because I'm definitely really good at creating value, but again, really feel bad about sending the invoice sometimes. So
Definitely.
this book really helped me with that aspect.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a really cool thing that he talks about in this book about thinking of yourself as a business, and it's definitely helped me as well, man. Because sometimes you need to turn off from the oh yeah, it's me, it's Davey, like we're just having a chat, it's all good, and then it's like, okay, at some point, like we need to talk about this stuff, which is the stuff which is going to make sure that I have a roof over my head, and there's definitely some guilt that comes with that for me. Like I've really struggled with that. And like you say, like the asking of it and making sure that things get paid on time. But it's about like trying to separate it a little bit. And like, this is me, the business. And then this is me, the person that's going to be like, have this really good relationship with you.
Yeah. It's crazy actually. When I read this book, when I first read this book, I wasn't thinking that I was going to have another chance at being a professional athlete, but
Okay.
I definitely made the decision that if I was to have the chance, I would have like an agent to represent this side because that's an obvious weakness of mine, and that was like one of the best decisions I ever made.
So is that what you have now? They do the negotiation side of it?
Yeah, totally, and it's perfect because it's a really big weakness of mine, and it doesn't allow, just like you said, if you can't feed yourself, how can you focus on your art? You know?
Yeah. And I think it's quite important that actually, because a lot of people give like athletes maybe some shit because it's like, well, look how much he's earning. But if you look at it as a business, it's like that business wants their employees to, all they're doing is thinking about performing better. So they give them enough money so they don't even have to worry about anything other than the performance. So
also, their career is short for the most part too.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. Yeah. But I know obviously we've always got that issue with mountain bikers maybe not making as much money as, other sports, but it's a whole different rabbit hole, I think.
I think that's going to change though, because mountain biking is exploding. A lot more people are doing it. And I think that the sport is becoming more mainstream, and that the salaries will have to reflect that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
They deserve it, man. Everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves to be paid.
True. We do not
professionals.
over-identify.
Only professionals. Only professionals deserve to be paid.
Yeah. But in a way, that is true, because in a way, like only people who are doing it properly should get paid.
100%.
Yeah. We do not over-identify with our jobs.
Massive one for me.
Yeah, same actually, same. But I feel like, I don't know. I don't really know. Go on, can you explain? Because I'm not entirely sure how I.
Well, there's a good quote in here that I need to pull up. Okay, we do not over-identify with our jobs. We recognize that we are not our job descriptions, and the amateurs over-identify with their avocation, I guess, job.
Interesting.
He says that his artistic aspirations define him, like he defines himself by them. And this causes the amateur to be overinvested in his success, and then he becomes paralyzed by fear of failure.
Okay.
This is massive for me in my own life, being scared to take the jump, worrying about the result. And you feel really, confident, and this calling, I wouldn't say confident, but you feel a calling to do that thing.
Yeah.
And you're just fucking so scared of the result. And that's because you're too invested in your avocation, right? You're too invested in the idea of you being this artist that you can't handle the people criticizing that. And the professional says, fuck all that. I'm a pro. This is what I do, but it doesn't define me. because after I'm done, that goes on the shelf. I'm actually just this living, breathing, loving person, you know? So this one was massive for me. And I think that's the part of the book that was the peak for me that changed my life. It was that, realizing that, and separating it.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And you've articulated that way better than I could. And it's funny how you've had a massive takeaway from that one. How I was a bit like, oh yeah, I don't really know. Like the only way I can really think about that is that a lot of people will talk about, you know, it's almost like if you meet someone new, it's like, oh, hey man, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? It's that, right? Like, well, doesn't really matter. It's more, and one thing that my girlfriend actually always says when we talk about like those deep conversations, like, oh, how do you know you actually liked me? She's always said, like, I never asked her what she did on our first date. We didn't even talk about work. So she's always said, like, oh, I loved how you talk to me about like what I enjoy, what are my passions, what are my hobbies. It's not about what do you do, because that job doesn't define you at all, really. It's just what you've chosen to do to make money to pay your way through this world. So
yeah, listen up, kids. That's a good way on your first date. Don't ask your girl what she does for a living. Stay away from that.
Stay away from it. Find out
Score
more.
some extra
deeper.
points.
Go deeper. Yeah, brownie point for sure. You'll definitely hit first base. We master the technique of our jobs. Interesting one. Again,
really, really interesting.
Not so much technique within what I do, I don't think, other than the technique is to always show up and always have some sort of plan. Be
pleasant, you know, on the phone when you're doing your conversations. I'm sure there's art to selling.
Yeah, there's definitely some art to it. I think the technique is to just be you and be true to what you are and who you are and what you want to be.
Amen.
We have a sense of humor about our jobs. I mean, we have to, really, right? I mean, look at what we do, really. I mean, I find especially the podcast is hilarious. I think it's so good that like there's this way of earning a living, which is just talking to people. It's amazing. We're blessed.
I love podcasts, and I don't make a dime from my podcast. Let me just be super clear. I actually invest money into my podcast, but I love it, man. I love it, dude. I love the podcast. I love having this, like, just creating content that people can actually chew on, like just putting stuff out there that actually is going to make your life better, you know, if you just go for it. And that there's just not enough of that out there these days. And I feel like, and me putting my foot down and making the time to do this kind of stuff just feels so freaking good. It feels so good, man. I go sleep so good at night, and it's beautiful. Because I often have these conversations with people, but you know, it's one-to-one.
Yeah.
And we make headway, and I feel like through podcasting, you can just help so much more people. You know, it just opens the doors. Yeah.
Out of interest, are you looking at like sponsors or anything like that? Do you or do your agent use this as like a bargaining tool when it comes to new deals?
No. The podcast is totally holy space of just giving back to the mountain bike community. And it will be like that. You know, I mean, it'll always be valuable content, but eventually, I mean, when it does become really, you know, important asset, then I'll monetize it for sure. But I'm not going to do that until I got a fucking really solid fan base. Yeah.
That's interesting. They say, don't they, that if you have 1,000 true fans, you can live off your art for the rest of your life. Yeah, I put a thing up on
Kevin Kelly.
Yeah, I put a thing up on LinkedIn the other day because I looked at some figures from mine. And I'll be honest, I'll be transparent. I don't really talk about figures too often, but last month, or maybe the month before, I can't remember. I might have posted it last month. I put like something along the lines of 186,000 downloads. They say you can live off 1,000 true fans for the rest of your life. I wonder how many of those downloads are true fans. And it was like,
sorry, that's what it's all about. Sorry to cut you off. I just get so excited about this, but that's what I'm all about right now. I'm all about trying to find the true fans. I don't even promote the podcast. Barely, barely. I just keep it super low key because I don't want any half-assed listeners. I want fucking true, dedicated, hardcore motherfuckers that are going to listen to the podcast and just be like, absolutely, they're going to take what all these amazing men and women that I'm interviewing, they're going to take the lessons, they're going to apply it to their own life, and they're going to make their lives better, and they're going to be dedicated, lifelong learners that are just going to, assault the world with whatever it is.
Amen to that. That's such a beautiful way of looking at this whole process. That's amazing.
And if you're half-ass, stop listening to my podcast.
Oh dear.
No, for real, because then sorry, I gotta finish this because for real, when I do monetize the podcast, the companies that are gonna be sponsors will be good companies that will make your life better. Yeah. Or else it's all for nothing, right? Like
I've always said that too about this. Like, sorry to interrupt. I've always said that. Like, I've had the offers from mattress companies and this, that, website building things and whatever. And it's like, no, like my audience, they want life-changing underwear. They want a cleaning fluid that's actually good. Like, I don't want to be talking about it's fake. Like, it's not organic. Obviously I'm a little bit further down this journey than you, so that these sort of things have started to happen. And it's obviously I've used it as a way to promote my own stuff and whatever, and it's become a bit of a business almost on its own. But I don't take it too seriously. Like, I don't hunt for sponsors. I don't hunt, like you were saying, I don't hunt for download figures. I don't hunt for listeners. It's like people will find it when they find it. And I much prefer people to find it through word of mouth or just organically. Like, that's what I've always, same with social media, on a slightly different topic. I don't play the Instagram game. Like, I don't care about what that number reads. I don't follow people for the sake of them following me back. I've always thought about it like that. Like, I want this whole thing to be similar to what you said, like organic. I want people to find it when they find it, and then they'll take value from it. And if they don't, they'll move on to something else.
Totally, 100%. And, it's all about gaining trust. Trust is hard these days.
Yeah.
And I think once you have someone's trust, it's really important to cherish that and respect that trust. And if you start endorsing crappy products, you're going to lose the trust. Doesn't matter what you're saying to your listeners. They're just going to, if one of them tries it and doesn't, isn't down with it, you just lost the trust of that person. And I think that's not worth it remotely. Like, I don't want to jeopardize the trust of my listeners because I love them. Like, that's why I'm pouring in all my life experience. I'm giving you guys all my experience, all my
I've learned. And not only that, what other people have learned too. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. I'd love for you to do more of your solo cast too, because the last solo cast you did about the morning routine was so good.
Thanks, man.
You've got a knack for that. You need to go down that route more often, in my opinion.
Thanks. I actually will be recording another one here very shortly on year-end reflection.
Beautiful. That'll be good. Looking forward to it.
Fuck yeah. So
you kill it with those. I love that. I love that last one you did.
Thanks, man.
Not hard though, right? It's so difficult. I've only done one and it was so hard.
It's funny, man. I just get fired up. Like a fire gets underneath me and I just write and then I go record it and it doesn't take long. It's weird. Maybe because I'm used to lecturing people. I don't know what it is.
I'd like to see you do one and you maybe just take some like fan questions and stuff, because I think some amazing stuff could come out of that.
Well, yeah, maybe further down the line. It's a good one.
That'd be really cool. There was one last, but I've just shut the book. Oh, page 69, wasn't it?
Yeah, number 10.
Number 10 was we receive praise or blame in the real world. yeah, that's something that we probably both, we spoke about it quite a bit, right? We deal with a little bit, definitely deal with quite a lot of praise and a little bit of I wouldn't say blame, but there's definitely some negativity that comes out of this sometimes. But you just have to learn to deal with it, let it wash off, you know. I always try and get a conversation going. If someone leaves something negative, if I see it, I'll try and get a conversation going and be like, look, like what's annoyed you so much about this episode or this thing that I've said or whatever, like, let's talk about it. I actually had a really, really weird experience of that once. It was a few years ago now, and an episode went up on Pink Bike actually, and someone left a really negative comment. So I sent him a message and was like, look, like, here's my phone number. If you want to chat, if you want to chat about it, like, I'm happy to explain, like, what, I can't even remember what it was. I'll dig it out and I'll send you the message.
That is a nice one, man.
But I was like, dude, just call me. Like, if it's that bad, like, you know, here it is. Yeah, let's talk. But yeah.
Wow.
What about you? What do you think of that, of the final one?
I'm down with it, man. You know, just like I said, try not to get too bummed out by the blame, and then try not to get too worked up from the praise, and just kind of stay focused on the center, but always being accountable for whatever it is. So if someone's blaming me for something, especially in the real world, and this might be a jump I made, and maybe it hurts somebody, I'll just use that as an example. Well, then, you know, I got to be accountable for that in the real world, you know, and show up and find out what happened and apologize. And that's never happened to me, but, you know, if it was, then, you know, you got to be there for the blame. And also, like, if like whoever hires me to build the jumps, they show up and they fucking love the jumps, I got to be there to shake their hand and be like, hell yeah, like thank you. You know, this is why you brought me in. I'm so stoked, and I'm happy that you're happy. So, but not getting like too worked up on each side. You know, not like if the jump kills someone, and I'm like, oh man, like I suck at this. Like, what the hell am I doing? Or if someone praises me, oh well, not being like, I'm the fucking best. Fuck everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody can teach me nothing. Sweet. So any other takeaways from this book that you'd like to talk about?
We've sort of touched on this, but I think we've kind of touched on it, but it's just a different way of reframing it. It's like,
let's bring it on.
He talks a little bit about, you know, again, it's kind of going back to unlived potential. And within the book, Steven Pressfield talks a little bit about when people get diagnosed with a life-changing illness and how that totally sort of shapes their life. Mm-hmm. And I do think about this quite a lot, because I had something quite close to home happen with this, where sort of a family friend actually was one of those guys that like worked all his life in the steel works. He was waiting until retirement to then start living this amazing life that they'd saved up for. And he basically retired, and then it was about 6 months later he died from a brain tumor. And I do often sort of think about it, because it does sort of go back to unlived potential, but amazing how people will totally change their outlook on life as soon as they're diagnosed with something. Now, imagine if you lived your life like that every day, of like, could die tomorrow, but you actually like thought you legit could die tomorrow. And I think overcoming that is obviously very difficult, because, you know, it's hard to live your life like no real commitment, or, you know, just doing everything you ever want all the time. It's really difficult to live like that. And sometimes it does take some planning, but I think it is important to really think about that and be like, look, what would I do? Like, if I was told I had 6 months to live, like what would you do? So I think that's a really good takeaway. I read a book a while ago by Darren Brown called Happy.
Okay.
And I think that's worth definitely worth reading. Not really for one of these, but for anyone out there who's just looking for another book to read. Derren Brown's Happy. It's basically about a story of a woman who gets diagnosed with cancer and lives out this amazing story, and how it actually is quite a happy experience because she knows that she's on her way out, and also that she treasures everyone and everything around her in a much different way to what they did before. So yeah, it's sort of on the topic of what we spoke about already, but I think it's always worth thinking about and bringing up, because a lot of people have these dreams and these ideas and these things that they want to do, but again, resistance is stopping you. So what if that resistance was removed and you thought you didn't have long to do it? Would you go out and do it, or would you let resistance keep beating you?
Hell yeah. And I think also I'd like to add to that, as a dream chaser, I think it's important for you to really think about what it is that you're chasing. And a lot of the times we think that it's something because we see it in other people. But I'll tell you, as someone who has chased a number of dreams and gotten to the results and found out that, no, that's actually not what I wanted. I still have these feelings. I think it's important for you not only to follow your dreams, but to double down and figure out, okay, what exactly do I want? What am I chasing? And what are the feelings that I'm looking to create? Because that's basically what you're looking for. And that'll save you so much time. It can save you years of your life, dude. So like,
how would you advise someone does that though? Like, what's been some practices you've done to really figure out what it is?
Man, I think Mind Hacking was a great book for that. They had some great practices. Yeah.
Dude, you're right, actually. Yeah, you are right.
I mean, there's so many different exercises. I mean, even in this book, when they talk about what your ideas and principles are, and embracing your true self and realizing, what you already are, and that alone. But I think good practices are just finding your purpose and being okay with it changing, and also like, what do you want to be? Who do you want to be like? And then go even further. Be like, why do I want to be like that? Or why is my purpose this? And look for the feelings, get to those feelings. Like, how's that going to make you feel? And then you'll often find that maybe that's not what you want. And there's other things. And then you go for those. And then
I feel like a lot of people that have found like financial success they were chasing that thing because they were looking for that feeling. And when you get to that thing, you go, well, I feel the same as what I did when I was living on beans on toast. Now I'm eating caviar or whatever, but I'm still chasing this thing, this feeling. Again, not a lot of people can probably say they've got to that point, but I know there's been elements of my life where I've felt like I wouldn't say pretty close to that, but like you've hit that goal that you set for yourself many years before, and then you just go, well, now what? I'm here. Now what? And it's hard to overcome that and stay on the path of, don't know.
Yeah, so you got to double down. And I think that it's good, man. Like knowing your purpose and knowing what your goals are and what you want to be. And then fucking testing that every once in a while and seeing like, hey, do I still want to be this? Or like when you achieve a goal, like, what's the feeling like? Am I feeling empty, or am I feeling more fulfilled? I mean, a good example for me was I always wanted a pit bike. I'd see videos and I'd be like, man, like people just pit biking, having a blast. What the fuck? Like, I need a pit bike. But it's always kind of like, it's a little pricey for what it is,
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a commitment. And one day I had the extra money, so I went and made the commitment. And I always thought that I would feel just like fucking something, like something, because I had this object in my life. And I went and I bought it. I felt great. And then it wasn't until I was taking it back in the car, and it was a long drive, that I just realized that nothing had changed.
Yeah.
Nothing had changed. Dude, I felt the exact same. And it just made me realize, and I was like, wow, I bet you this is what acquiring wealth is like. Because here you are, you want something. And I don't know what it's like to acquire wealth because I'm still working and going towards that. Money's not my main focus. Love and fulfillment is. But I often wonder, and I'm like, I'm sure that's what it's like getting lots of money into your life. It doesn't really change anything. And if anything, it'll just make what you already are. It'll just make more of it, So if you're already a dick, it's going to make you more of a dick. If you're already a good person, you're dialed, whatever, then it's going to make you more of that. I feel like money can be, fuel to whatever you are.
Totally, man. I feel like for me personally, on some level, all I chase is freedom, whether it's not really financial. It's just freedom to be able to do what you want and live how you want to live. And it doesn't, for me to live how I want to live doesn't mean you have to have a lot of money. Like as long as I have a bike and some toys and a house, I'm free. I'm happy, and you don't have to have a Lamborghini parked on the drive or, a brand new motocross bike or anything like that. You can live a pretty good life on not a lot. And there's a really interesting thing that I've read people try, which is basically sort of going to what is the worst case scenario. If you lost everything, how bad actually is it? And a lot of people have done this. That I've never done it personally, but like having a month of living the worst you could live. Like, okay, what is it like if I only eat bread? Like it's usually not that bad. So you've got to be pretty thankful that you can live any sort of life better than that anyway, right?
Dude, Tim Ferriss has an exercise of that. One of his stories.
Yeah, I think that might be where I read it.
And I think it's Seneca or Epictetus, I don't know, one of the guys. And you eat rice and beans for 4 days and wear the same clothes. I have done that exercise a couple times. And
have you?
Yeah. And it was funny as hell, man. You're just eating beans and rice and you're wearing the same clothes every day. And then you're just telling yourself the whole time, you're just like, I think you repeat the words, is this so bad? Basically, you repeat those 2 words to yourself. I could be wrong with that. I'll have to pull it up. But yeah, I often think about that. And it's a great exercise. And if you're having some problems with money, particularly with losing your money and worried about feeling poor, I highly recommend the exercise. It's quite a good one.
That's interesting. Yeah. There's been times in my, again through my life where I have been like broke and I remember one time just turned it into a game of being like, right, I have literally nothing. How well can I live on nothing? Like how good can I live by just asking for favors and like sleeping on a friend's, I remember sleeping on a friend's couch for a little while and stuff like that. Like how well can I live? Turns out you can live pretty good. Like if you've got a good friendship network around you, like they'll cook dinner, they'll get you back on your feet pretty quickly. Usually not the same for everyone. Obviously people end up homeless. So yeah, totally don't go to that extent, but
totally. And I definitely live that life, but I found the hardest thing about that life for me is that you're not, you're just taking, constantly taking, unless you can provide for those people, but you're taking. And I feel like part of growing up and becoming a man is being able to give, to your community and stuff like that. So for me, I lived that lifestyle and, probably when I was about, 18 to 23, 22. And it was sick, man. It was sick. Lots of cup noodles, lots of €1 McDonald's burgers. But after a while, as you grow up, I definitely felt this personal need to start being a provider and getting dialed. So, and adding value instead of taking value.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Is there anything else that like
Yeah.
major takeaways from this book?
I got a quote here,
Awesome.
right here, a good one. This is a quote from the book. There's no mastery to turning pro. It's a decision brought about by an act of will. We will make our minds to view ourselves as pros, and we do it. It's as simple as that. Bam. It's as simple as that. All you got to do is read the book and make the shift, the mental shift, and take these principles into your life of being more professional, and you will be a professional.
Yeah.
It's just a shift.
It's
a shift in your brain. And especially, you know, I want to say to a lot of younger guys out there, you know, don't fall into the trap of being too over invested in your work, you know, or your riding or whatever it is. Just, you know, just make the decision to turn pro.
Yeah, it's true. No, mate, you're right. 100%. I love that it goes in the book from being an amateur to being a pro. I think it's a really great way of looking at life in general, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And always makes you think about how you can be more pro in all aspects of your life, whether it's your relationship, your riding, your business, everything, you know, trying to be a professional across the board. I feel like it's a bit of a kick.
Totally. And there was some other things. I mean, part 3 of the book where they're talking about the muse and creativity. I definitely want to like put a flag out to there. Like that might trigger some people, mainly because his views on creativity are very interesting. And creativity as a whole is interesting because, where does it come from? How do you be more creative? There's books on that stuff, certainly, but his philosophy is interesting, and I hope it doesn't turn anyone away from the book. When I look at the book, when I look at the book holistically, I really feel like the first 2 parts of the book, that's the most valuable part. The last part certainly has its value, but it seems like it's more of an opinion, if that makes any sense.
I totally, no, mate, I 100% agree with you. I think for me, the same. The first two parts of the book, book 1 and book 2, they resonate really deep and I understand it. Then it goes a little bit more woo-woo, but all I think about when I'm reading that aspect is like, what does it look like to live without and overcoming those resistances that have been mentioned previously? That's how I look at the book. I think the last bit, it does get a little bit weird, I'll be honest with you, about the muse.
It's just his opinion. It's just his opinion on creativity, which is totally cool. I mean, like, if it's working for him, it's perfect. And I have definitely felt some strange things about the creative process as well. You know, sometimes I feel like I get hit by lightning bolts and it's just like, what the fuck? Where the hell did that come from? And it could be the muse landing on my shoulder, you know, or who knows what the hell it is. But I just want to, you know, warn people about that part of the book and just to approach it with an open mind and understand that it is just, you know, it's his opinion, you know, and you'll certainly find value in the first 2 parts and maybe even the 3rd part too.
Yeah. Again, I'll be honest, I don't fully understand that last book. I've read it probably 6 to 8 times. I've read this book. And I still always get to the end of that 3rd book and I'm like, I didn't quite get all of that. It didn't quite sit. It didn't quite resonate with me. I didn't really have a takeaway from book 3, from part 3, other than what does it look like to live without resistance? Like that's always the takeaway. Mm-hmm. So I think I should probably, you know what, I thought about it because I've just read it again, obviously for this. I was going to try and reread it again, but it just doesn't seem to sit. It just doesn't go in. You know, so yeah, for me, definitely the first part and the second part are key. Definitely.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I think mainly he's just trying to, you know, just share his creative process and his views on creativity. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting because I mean, as an author, that's a huge thing to tackle. And everyone experiences it so differently. So, I mean, wow.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think hopefully we've covered a lot of that as well, of how people might experience resistance. And I really hope that people pick this book up. Legit, I really hope that people go, you know what, I'm going to read that. It's a short read, 160, I can't remember what we said, pages.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have 3 lines on them, so it's super easy to read. You know, you can do anything for 3 hours of your life, right? You can easily read this book.
You could do a podcast.
You can do a podcast. Exactly.
Dude, I
turns out the podcast is longer than the book.
I loved it. And there's another thing that I'd love to hear your thought on, because this kind of goes against the grain of a lot of what we've been talking about, and it also kind of goes against like a little bit of the grain in the book, but I just wanted to highlight it because I thought it was really interesting to me. He says that we're not born with unlimited choices, and we can't be anything we want to be.
Huh. Really? Is that in the book, is it?
Dude, yes. And I had to pause the book.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, wow. You know, and I guess, you know, what he was pointing at was basically like, your time is short. Choose wisely, you know, be the professional. You know, we ultimately, you know, not all of us can be astronauts. You know, if we're 5 feet tall, we can't all be fucking NBA players, you know? And I think that's what he was poking towards. But I just, you know, it's just and I think it goes back to that ass kicking that he's just unleashing on you the whole time.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe that is the thing. Maybe some of that is like, you have to just be realistic. Like you say, I'm never going to play in the NBA, no matter how much I sit down and do the work and overcome resistance of calling the LA Lakers saying, yo, can I come on the practice squad? I'm not going to be a basketball player. Like, it's as simple as that. So maybe that is what he's saying, that some stuff is probably a little bit ridiculous. Like, you can't do that. But again, like, I'd like to think that we live in a world where anything is possible.
Yes, I like to think that.
So I'm on the fence with that.
Yeah, me too. But it's cool to struggle it. And another quote I pulled from the book, which is really nice, and I think this will definitely help you kind of dial in your purpose and stuff. He asks, you know, of any activity you do, ask yourself, if I were the last person on earth, would I still do it?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it does sort of funnel into, why are you doing all this stuff? Are you doing it to impress people? Are you doing it because it feels right inside, which is obviously what we should be doing? We shouldn't be worried about a lot of the stuff we've talked about today. Like, we shouldn't be worried about external gratification. We shouldn't be worried about monetary value. We should be doing it for the sake of doing it, because it feels like the right thing to be doing in our heart of heart.
Yeah, but we're human, and it's hard to get connected to that sometimes, especially with all the noise, you know? So I almost see it as like, it's almost like this whole process. Like, first you need to realize that you're fucked up and you're not on your path. And then you need to like cleanse yourself of all the bullshit to connect this inner whatever the fuck it is. And then once you connect to it, then you can figure out what it is, you know, the direction that you got to go or what you want to be. And then you can work backwards from whatever you want to be to what you got to do. And then you know, and then at least you're working towards it. And then it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks.
I think totally. I think it's really sad though. Like, it's really sad to think that, like, when I look at the generation of, how old are you, Matt? I keep forgetting. You're 32,
29, right? 29.
29, are you in? Bro, Jesus Christ, you're way younger than I thought. So I'm your elder, which is crazy. So, like, okay, so the generation maybe a little bit younger than us, most importantly, how wrapped up they are in social media, in just trying to survive, that they're not finding their true direction. that they've got so much noise, like you called it. Like there's so much noise from external pressures of, you know, money and finances, and you have to have this, you have to buy this house, you have to own this car, you have to do this and that and the other. Pressures from your family, that you're not actually on the true path. And you said it beautifully there about like getting rid of all that internal noise and chatter and finding out like what you're actually all about. And there's all these different ways that we've spoke about over the last few books about trying to figure that out and trying to live a much more purposeful and, you know, sort of with a bit more of a direction in your life. I often think about that and how there is this generation that have got caught up in the web of social media and the web of looking at all these people and what they've got and what they don't have and the amount of followers they've got and the money they've got. And I think that, do you think that's always been around, or is it just more prominent now because of social media and media in general?
You know, it's hard to say, but when I think about it, I definitely first and foremost just feel so sad for kids growing up these days, and how can any of us relate to them fully? Could you imagine growing up with an iPhone, dude? Like, and all, you know, and think about how much of a dumbass you are as a kid. And then you got social media to document you being a dumbass. I mean, we're lucky. We had Facebook, I mean, which was, you know, some sort of social media, but it, you know, Facebook, I didn't have my first Facebook account till I was like 14 years old. Could you imagine all the years before that, you having an iPhone, you having basically, you know, all this just pumped at your system? If it's affecting us full grown adults who, you know, have somewhat centered and figured out what we're about, could you just imagine being a young kid? Like, it's just got to be so difficult to be a kid these days. How do you cope with all these?
Yeah, and I think,
you know,
how we're talking about finding purpose and finding direction, and they're focused on raising their social media profile.
Yeah, it's more noise.
And how that literally, when you get, again, we spoke about the deathbed and having no regrets. When you get to that point, you know, will Instagram still be around for those kids? Will they be like, oh, wow, across my whole life, it'll say on my gravestone, 8,500 followers. Well done. You've made it. Congratulations. You know, guess how many of those 8,500 people are at your funeral?
Oh, man.
One. You know?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I find it so interesting when you really think about that.
Yeah. And
that it literally, I mean, I don't know if literal is the right word, but it means fuck all, really.
Totally. But this is why we need good people to look up to, man, that are going to help these generations of young kids kind of grow into full grown adults. Like, they're navigating waters that have never been sailed before as humans. Like, literally every generation that is born into this world right now has never, like, humans have never been here before. We've never been here. We got, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of habits and fucking programs built into us, you know, but we, in the last like 200 years, we've really just come into this modern existence. We don't know what the hell is going on. Our bodies are like, what the fuck? Our minds are like, what the fuck? You know, we're just challenging and coping and with all this change. And you think about these poor kids, man, you know, they have no examples to go off. We still don't know what the effects of like cell phones are and all that shit. People are committing suicide like crazy. You know, we live more comfortably than ever, but everyone's miserable. Everyone's fat. We don't know what the hell is going on. So I think it's good to, you know, just have compassion for the younger generations and like, just, have compassion and just be a good example for them as they
totally
kind of grow up.
It's strange right now, like, because we're so connected, but we're so disconnected at the same time. We're so connected, dude. I could message you on 10 different platforms if I wanted. You know, Instagram, I could comment, I could DM, I can WhatsApp, I can email, I can Facebook you, I could pink bike message you. I could Snapchat you, Skype message you, all these ways I can get hold of you. But as a community, we're so disconnected at the same time.
Well, you need physical
Which is-
connection, dude. You know, you need
Yeah,
real connection.
But that's what I mean, especially at the moment. You know, yeah, we're living through the social media thing, but we're also living through the pandemic side, which is having, especially for kids, dude, like crazy negative effects. Kids aren't seeing other kids. They're not playing. They're not learning those social cues, but they can sit and talk to each other on all these different apps.
Yeah, it must be.
Which is
so
insane.
Yeah, must be so insane. I definitely, like, first thing that comes to my mind is just like, be compassionate, be loving, just try to be a good example for these poor kids as they're growing up, because fucking world is crazy, man. And I could only, feel for people who got kids, trying to raise their kids up in these crazy times, man. Because it's nuts. You got anything else from the book?
Nah, I think we covered every single bit. I think for me,
Wow.
the only thing I think, if it's cool in a bit or whenever we end with, is like the final paragraph, because I think the final paragraph is super powerful. It sums everything up perfectly. But yeah, how about you?
Let's end with the final paragraph, and then I guess I'll say the next book.
Cool. And also, I want to hear about your edit and promote the hell out of that real quick.
Oh,
okay, so the final paragraph of this book. Are you a born writer? Were you put on earth to be a painter, a scientist, an apostle of peace? In the end, the question can only be answered by action. Do it or don't do it. It may help to think of it this way. If you were meant to cure cancer or write a symphony or crack cold fusion and you don't do it, you not only hurt yourself or even destroy yourself. You hurt your children, you hurt me, you hurt the planet. You shame the angels who watch over you, and you spite the Almighty, who created you and only you with your unique gifts, for the sole purpose of nudging the human race 1 millimeter farther along its path to God. Creative work is not a selfish act or a bid for attention on the part of the actor. It's a gift to the world and every being in it. Don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got. So good.
Yeah, if that doesn't whip your butt out of shape, I don't even know what will. Like, that's it right there.
Yeah. Now watch Matt's edit and get the fuck on with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you made it this far and you read, the books, and you listened to us talk about this book, which is really a big one, that's why we just had to talk about it. There's just so much packed in there. And now, I guess we could talk about the video if you'd like.
I'd love to hear about the edit that's coming out, man, because like many people, I mean, when this goes out, it's probably already out, the video.
Yeah.
But, dude, just tell me about it, man. Like, I just want to know about it in general.
Yeah, so in the springtime, it was crazy because last year I lost some of my sponsors, big paying brands that were supporting me. So I was basically done with mountain biking. I was like, okay, well, now it's time to be a builder and focus on building. So I was bringing it hard as a builder and had a lot of jobs lined up. And then COVID basically vaporized all those jobs. And somehow the biking industry got a huge boost. And then Norco reached out to me, man, which was crazy. And they sent me a bunch of product, and also my poor friend Brett, who just actually broke his femur. If you're listening to this, go send him some love. He broke his femur.
Oh man.
He hurt his knee. So a lot of my spring and summer was focused on Brett and just helping him train. Okay. And building his facilities to train on at the house and all that stuff. So with him being injured, we had all these resources available and all my jobs got canceled. So I asked him, I was like, hey man, can I build some stuff in the backyard? Just for fun. Start building just for fun. And man, I was loving it. wanted to maybe have a crack at these tricks I've been trying to land for a while, as I felt like the body was feeling good. And I was like, damn, man, I think I got these moves this time. But no pressure if I don't, because I'm just doing this for fun. So I built all the stuff, and I had hired some friends to help me. I didn't have much money, they basically just came over to help me, and I built all these couple features that I could build with what I had. And I was just so stoked. I was having so much fun creating again and building. And it was just like this fun thing that I was doing. And then I guess because Brett started his company Title, he had a full on production team basically just ready to go that was working for Title. And they didn't have much work because Brett got injured. So there was this amazing opportunity for me to basically do this project. And that's exactly what it was. And we just did it in the backyard. We just used all the resources, that we had available to us, which is insane. This big excavator with a steel wrist. I was able to do all the dirt work without using any shovels, which is so sick. Like everything you see in that video, I built literally with the machine. And then all the wood stuff, my friends helped me build. And we just went out there and like went to war on these features, and it was sick. It was like a grown man out there with a puzzle. I built like a puzzle, but there was physical consequences if I fucked the puzzle up.
Yeah.
And I was just going at it and having fun and just expressing myself. And it was great.
Insane. And here it is. So now it's coming out. So you must be super proud to put this thing out to the world, dude. And honestly, like as a fan of mountain biking and as someone who's got to know you quite well over the last few years, I am so fucking proud of you, dude. And I cannot wait to watch it. I am so hyped for it. And when I saw that, like when I even saw the promo, I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, yes. Almost had like no words. I didn't even know what to message you. I was just like, yes, this is it. Like, this is the path you should be on. This is the shit that people want to see.
Yeah. Well, creativity is a funny thing, right? Everyone I think Terry Crews has the best example of creativity, ever. Is Terry Crews has an interview with Tim Ferriss, and in the interview he says like there's a race and everyone's racing for the pot of gold, but you look around, if you stop the race and you just look around, you'll notice that there's lots of pots of gold everywhere, and everyone's racing for this one pot of gold. But if you just stop and look around and use your creativity, you can get to all these other pots of gold where nobody are. So that's basically what I did with that video. I just stopped and I looked and I'm like, okay, well, what do people really value? Why do they watch mountain bike videos? Think about those questions and then design the features around and the tricks around those questions. But also, like, once you design them, you ask yourself and you're like, like, is this something that's appealing to me? And if it lines up, then yes. And I encourage a lot of young riders to like not think, just about adding an extra tail whip, or adding an extra bar spin. Think holistically, like if you're adding so many bar spins or so many tail whips, and I'm just using them as an example, normal people cannot relate to the amount of difficulty that you are pursuing. Same with some opposite tricks on a certain amount, so all depends on what kind of audience you're looking to impress with your content, but always be aware that the more technical you become as a rider, you are essentially shrinking your audience, if that makes any sense, or becoming more narrowed. So I often think about this because I want to bring cycling to as many people as possible. So I design my features to appeal to a broad audience. And, this is just an art that I've worked on my entire career. And it seems that I have dialed it in. Because the internet's exploding and it's sick, man. It's sick. And you just try not to get too wrapped up in the hype and just stay focused on just continuing to put in the work. Because if it's working out like this now, I'm just getting started, and the snowball is just beginning to roll down the hill, so just stay focused and on the next project and whatever it is. And, also, like, I'm 29 years old, my body won't be able to take this stuff in 5 years. So it's really just maximizing this window and making sure that I reach my potential. So when I go to my later years, I can look back and feel really, really good about what the hard work I did and what I did.
Dude.
Did that answer your question? You want to know any more about the video?
Yeah, I think beautifully. And if you're not fired up to go watch this thing now, then what are you doing?
Well, like whether you're fired up or not, it doesn't really matter. But basically, the video is just it's just a cool opportunity from Title for me to express myself, and hopefully it's the beginning of many more. And I hope it inspires you to go out and express yourself in whatever way it is. And if you want to ride a certain way and there's no feature out there to ride like that, well, dude, I inspire you to go out and build it, design it, learn from the whole process. It'll teach you a lot about yourself, and hell yeah.
I feel like we've come full circle as well. Like, it's all about, you've overcome the resistance, got back on the bike, created art. The whole thing is like what we've been talking about, man. So it's sick. Honestly, I can't wait. It comes out on Monday, December 14th. It'll be out, no doubt, when this podcast's out. So for anyone listening to my episode, there's a link in the show description to check out the edit. And then for sure, reach out and give Matt some love once you've watched it as well, please.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys in advance. I think now is probably a good time to let our listeners know about the next book.
Yes, and me, because I have no idea what it is.
So I thought hard about this last night, and I had a couple titles out, and I wasn't sure, man, which one I was going to choose. And I was like, fuck, which one am I going to choose? And it finally came down to it, because I think that this book is really important and a lot of people need to read this book. And it's definitely a big reason why that video even exists. About the same time that I read War on Art, I also read this book. And the book, I might as well debut it right now. The book is from Cam Zink, actually recommended it to me. So if you're a Cam Zink fan, you'll be extra stoked to read this. This is the one book that Cam Zink himself was like, Matt Macduff, you got to read. You could read any book, read this book. And the book is Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. How we can learn to fulfill our potential. Just like you said, man. Amazing. Potential. This is perfect. So I'm super excited about this one. It is from Carl S. Dweck, I believe you say his name.
Carl S. Dweck.
And this is a big book that Cam Zink recommended to me, and it really impacted my life pretty big, and I think that it's a great next step from War on Art, because it'll essentially just help you stay in that learning mindset, and it'll help you tweak your mindset to get the most out of these books and reach your potential. And I haven't read it in a while, and I was actually I was really looking forward to revisiting it. So I'm stoked to revisit it, and I am I'm fired up, man, to read this one. I hope you guys are too. And you've been following along.
I'm going to put a link in the show description. Now, there's a new thing in the UK where you can use a local bookstore to get your books. It's like a collective that they've put together.
Whoa, nice.
Because I've seen so many people buying books. You know, I get messages all the time of like breath and mind hacking and stuff. And I hate that all these people are going to Amazon because Jeff's got enough money. Like, he's good. Don't worry about Jeff. Jeff's cool. So let's try and drive people to your local bookshop, especially now in the UK. Things are opening back up. So if you're going to buy this book, go to your local bookshop and help them out. So I'm going to say that, or their website or something. So they've put together this collective of websites and stuff where you can find this book. So I'm going to put that in the show description.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. And as you're reading the book, just get stoked because people like Cam Zink have written it, read it and really been impacted by it. And that guy is crazy, man, doing the biggest backflips and biggest everything in mountain biking. So I think if the book is big enough for him, it'll be just fine for us.
Rad, for sure. Well, I'm going to buy it right now and get into it, man. I'm looking forward to catching up. It's going to be after Christmas too, man. So, have a great Christmas break yourself personally and everyone listening as well. If you listen just to these episodes or you're listening on Matt's platform, then thank you and have a great holidays.
Yeah, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. If you got this far, and have an amazing holidays. And you too, man, have a fucking amazing holidays. I know it's going to be difficult with COVID, but hope you connect with your family and reach your potential for your holiday.
I'm potentially going to eat a shit ton of food.
And give, man. Be sure to give it this holiday season, man.
Oh, did you get all that? Did you enjoy this episode? If you did, please leave a review on iTunes. More importantly, please share it with your friends. Reach out, let us know what you think, what you thought. Are you getting the latest book that Cam has recommended? There's a link in the show description to get it if you want to. Most importantly, Christmas is coming, folks. Like Matt said, take some time out, rest, recuperate. It's been a rough 2020 for most people. 99% of people on the planet, I think, apart from Pfizer. They're doing great. Massive thank you once again to our show sponsors, Worx and the Hydroshot. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, boom, there you go. No one's going to complain at a fresh battery-powered pressure washer. Secondly, Muc Off. Again, thank you guys for stepping in and helping out with the podcast. It means a lot. And a natural Leaf CBD. Again, HKT 20 will get you 20% off everything on the Natural Leaf website. Also, don't forget Hook It products. Enter the promo code podcast. That'll get you 10% off anything on our website, hookitproducts.co.uk. Got the merch store on there too. And don't forget to be safe out there, folks. Keep it real. One love.